I'll call to order this January 27th meeting of the Fairfield Plan and Zoning Commission. I'll get right into our first item, minutes for December 2nd and January. I can please have a motion on the item. Thank you. Shirley, we moves to approve. Do I have a second? I think you're off the hook. I'm off the hook on this path. Sure. Commissioner Randolph seconds.
I didn't see any problems with it.
Commissioner Randolph. Any other comments or questions from Commissioner Braun?
Yes, the section on page 2.
Which minutes?
Under the plan of conservation and development. Paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, where it says Ms. Monahan and Mr. Capozzi spoke regarding the POCD. Ms. Braun moved to make changes to the POCD document. During Ms. Braun's discussion, Vice Chairman Randolph raised a point of order that they were off topic and wanted to move ahead with the original motion. Ms. Braun restated her motion to make changes to the POCD document. I think the more accurate description is that Vice Chairman Randolph actually interrupted Ms. Braun because that is not an allowed way of moving the prior motion. You're not allowed to interrupt the speaker when you try to move the prior motion. So that actually did happen, and that actually should be reflected in the minutes.
Like whether he interrupted or not, I think the minutes reflect the record of the vote and any motions. So interruption is not an action.
Well, if you
But it's not a dispute of your characterization or not, but it's not something that would go into the minutes.
if the prior motion was not moved forward correctly, then my motion was never fully heard and it was interrupted. So I think the word interrupted should be in there. That's more accurate to reflect what actually happened.
Okay. But that doesn't go into minutes. The motion, the record of the motions will go into the minutes.
Well, it does say he raised a point of order. It just doesn't say that he raised it in the middle of Commissioner Braun's comments.
The propriety of his raising the motion may be in question, but the actions taken are what they are.
Okay, I'm not questioning propriety, although I am questioning it, but the minutes should reflect what happened, that he interrupted Commissioner Braun's comments in order to raise his motion to move the prior motion.
The motion on the table is to approve as is. Are you moving to amend the motion?
Yes, I'm moving to amend the motion to add the accurate phrase as follows. During Ms. Braun's discussion, Vice Chair Randolph interrupted to raise a point of order. Just the word interrupted too should be inserted there.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun moves to, hang on, Commissioner Capozzi, Commissioner Braun moves to amend the motion to approve to include the phrasing she mentioned, adding the word interrupted. Is there a second for that? Commissioner Monahan seconds. Anything further, Commissioner Braun?
No, I'll rest on what I already have stated.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Monahan.
I think the minutes always need to be accurate, especially when the secretary is saying that they're not.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Capozzi.
I don't recall Commissioner Randolph interrupting as the word is defined. Commissioner Braun, I recall Commissioner Braun getting way off topic and in the weeds, and Commissioner Randolph asking for the point of order to return to the stated topic of conversation, and that was why, in my recollection, he asked for a point of order. I don't recall it being an interruption.
When somebody is speaking and somebody interjects, that's an interruption, and that is actually against Robert's rules of order in terms of moving the prior question. And whether I'm in the weeds or not is a subjective opinion. That's not really relevant to what I'm saying. I'm talking about whether the minutes should actually accurately reflect what actually happened, because that is relevant to whether we actually followed Robert's Rules of Order or not when we adopted the POCD on December 2nd.
Do you have something else to add, Commissioner Capozzi?
Yes, I just like to reiterate my point that I do not recall Commissioner Randolph interrupting, as the word is defined, Commissioner Braun. I recall Commissioner Braun attempting to commandeer the meeting and divert us from the task at hand, which is why Commissioner Randolph, as I recall, called for a point of order. This was not an interruption. This was a call for a point of order.
May I speak?
Well, go ahead. Last
I-
bite.
I- I object to the mischaracterization of what I was attempting or not attempting to do. That is not even the topic. That itself is off topic of what we're talking about right now. I, of course, don't agree with what Commissioner Capozzi is saying. But when you're trying to move the prior question according to Robert's rules, you cannot do it when you interrupt somebody else. That is why it's relevant to the minutes.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Nope.
All those in favor of the motion to approve, to amend the original motion as stated by Commissioner Braun, please raise your hand or say aye. Commissioner Braun, in fact, there you go. All those opposed, raise your hand or say aye. The motion does not carry. Any additional comments on the original motion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, raise your hand or say aye. All those opposed, raise your hand or say aye. The motion carries 6-2. 5-2, apologies. Thank you. Next item is Lower Farm Road, a request by $100 Development LLC for release of 100% of the performance bond, the amount of
So,
$448,200.
excuse me, point of order, we didn't do the second set of minutes. Are we not doing that today?
I heard a motion to approve both.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I do not, I'm gonna have to recall my vote because I have a change for the other set of minutes from January 27th. I mean, sorry, January 13th.
You can't recall a vote. If you want, I think the proper motion would be to reconsider the minutes of them altogether, which I believe can be done in at our next meeting.
Okay, I'll raise it at the next meeting. Thank you.
Just to restate, Lower Farm Road request by $100 Development for a release of 100% of the performance bond in the amount of $448,285. Letter of credit as recommended by the Town Engineering Department in a Residence A zone. Any
I don't really have much
other
to add
nothing staff
except
comments?
Senior Civil Engineer Anthony Santiago reviewed the Lower Farm Road subdivision development and thought that the improvements were satisfactory to release the bond.
Thank you, Ms. Harrigan. Can I have a motion on the items? Commissioner Monahan.
I've actually been into the development as
Move
well.
to approve.
I moved to approve, but
I'll come back to you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Monahan moves to approve. Commissioner Delgado seconds. Go ahead, Commissioner Monahan.
I've actually been into the development as well. There's a resale in it. And I think we did a good job. And I think we exceeded most people's expectations.
Thank you,
I'm
Commissioner.
having trouble
Delgado.
hearing.
We'll try to speak up.
I
Commissioner,
don't know if the mics are working there, that's all. Because if I'm not hearing it, maybe it's not being recorded.
it is. The recording is fine. Commissioner Capozzi, you hear us? All right. Okay, we'll try to speak louder.
Thank you.
Delgado.
I'm just going off of engineering's comments. Sufficient to approve.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments by the commission? All right, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor of the motion to release the bond, raise your hand or say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next is a discussion of priority regulation amendments. I asked this to be added to the agenda. There's been discussion at previous meetings about upcoming requirements as a result of an act concerning public housing as well as other recommendations that we had put forward as part of the POCD. And my suggestion would be that we direct the staff to draft zoning regulations for parking that conform with an act concerning housing growth. I would also request that as part of that, the members of the commission email staff their individual input on where they would like to see any parking mitigation zones, which could be compiled by staff and presented for discussion by the full commission in February. So I would ask for a motion to that effect. Or Randolph,
So move.
do I have a second? Commissioner Delgado, comments?
I think providing direction to staff who are technically proficient at drafting text amendments and are conversant with the requirements of 8002 and up to date planning and zoning practices is a prudent measure. I think it gives every commission member to an opportunity to provide comments. I guess I would ask that we set deadlines for those comments to be received. So there's not any ambiguity over when the process starts and ends.
Thank you, Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner Delgado.
I think it's customary, similar to Commissioner Randolph's comments, for staff to draft them. I think this is really more of a formality, as we understood that was kind of the process that we were expecting. Similarly, I think I'd ask that people explain or offer justification as to the areas that they're seeking to be part of a mitigation zone so that we can have a full conversation when we're looking to identify the ones that may end up being approved.
Commissioner Monahan.
I have a little bit of an objection to the way this is phrased and how this was not communicated in advance. I would have had some questions.
You can ask questions.
Okay, so in terms of, are we talking about the 8% that would be?
That's what I was
two
referring to
zones?
when I
Okay, so if we could be
suggested.
specific in terms of what would be great. Two is, do we have a list of all of those sites that we can choose from? Do we have a list of, when we talk about parking, what those sites are, so we know what might be properties that weren't aware of? Yes, we can know.
I'm having trouble hearing. I don't know if the mic isn't working or not.
I was just saying that it would be great to get a list of those sites that we could consider or that may be possibilities. That we would like just a little bit more direction in terms of, is there already a basis that has begun that we can work from, or is this a blank slate?
I'm happy to, given that that was my request, I'll speak to that. My suggestion would be that, and I'll ask Director Harrigan for guidance on timing based on staff's capacity, but my suggestion would be that initial input is not on specific properties because we don't know yet what consensus there will be from the commission. So I think the best way to approach this would be to provide somewhat more general input on areas of town that you believe should have a parking mitigation zone. And then once we get some consensus on what those general areas are going to be, I think that's the appropriate time to start getting into the level of where are the boundaries drawn around what properties. And I think in between at some point we can.
Have we had Mark Barnhart weigh in from, the different businesses downtown and what their demands are, what their needs are?
No, I mean, I think so. This would have to be noticed for a public hearing. There would be the public would have input, and I think there would be an opportunity. Businesses or
That would be very
stakeholders.
useful, because obviously people need to visit those businesses.
It's fair. I think we have to start the process somewhere. And if the public is going to provide input during public comment, seems to be the appropriate time for stakeholders, including businesses and other members of the public, to provide input.
Are there any additional traffic studies that have been done, or additional parking studies that have been done? I know the state was working on one, a TOD study. Is there any information on that we can have in terms of what they're looking at, and what information might be relevant to zones that we choose?
That I would direct to Ms. Harrigan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're requesting information about the Connecticut DOT train and CT fast track study, where they're looking at areas around those stations that's state land, where they are contemplating whether or not they could do developments on part of those parking lots. As you know, our own downtown trains parking lot, it doesn't have a waiting list anymore. That's a very different scenario than the 6-year waiting list that we had in place prior to the opening of Fairfield Blackrock Station. And after that station opened, it went down to like a 3.5-year waiting list. Now there is no waiting list at all, and they're actually leasing some of that downtown parking to Fairfield University students, because there's just a decreased demand based on today's, work from home and different things. So what DOT has started to do is really an information gathering at this point. There's not a plan that's been created as of yet. And we had a meeting, for example, scheduled this week, but DOT has been very busy in response to this snowstorm. So they canceled that meeting. I don't know when it's going to be rescheduled, but as far as I know right now, they're just in the information gathering stage.
I've been monitoring the parking lot during the week to see kind of where the voids are, et cetera. I know Mondays and Fridays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, early Thursday and Friday, very different patterns. I think Friday is a day that's usually kind of work from home, but if you go on any given Wednesday, the lot's full. On any Tuesday, the lot's full. So when we do those studies, I just want to make sure that they're accurate, because I think that work from home is now going back to almost 4 to 5 days a week for most individuals. And people are moving here also to use the train, living in additional towns, or moving back to Fairfield. If they need access to New York, they're no longer being able to work from home. So what's available today and what is possible for next year, I'd hate to see us develop those sites and then say, okay, now what do we do?
Commissioner Randolph,
Um,
and then Kaposi, sorry.
just as a question to Chair and to Director Harrigan, would it be possible for individual commissioners to meet with Mr. Barnhart yourself to get additional information?
Sure, if they would like to.
Answer these questions in more detail,
That'd be great.
because I know there is extensive studies by the state, by the town, by other independent parking commissions that I'm familiar with, just because I've talked with you and I investigate this myself, but I just wanted to confirm that that you were available to discuss these in detail.
And to that end, I'd also appreciate a survey among the town businesses in terms of their feeling on this and what their, suggestions would be and requirements would be, and any issues they have with their business due to parking, that we acknowledge that. Finalize that reporting.
Commissioner Kaposi and then Braun.
I just wanted to say that I tend to agree with Commissioner Monahan on this, that, I oftentimes will have to commute to New York on a given week 3 or 4 times. And, like she said, Fridays are pretty empty in the downtown Fairfield train station parking lot. But Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, if I get there, if I have a later meeting and I get there after 10 a.m., it's a challenge to find parking, even with the permit that I have. So I just wanted to reiterate that. I believe she is correct on that point.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun.
May I ask Ms. Harrigan what draft she has been working on, if we can get a copy of that?
I don't know can you clarify your request?
When we came here about a month ago, you had indicated that you were already working on regulations regarding HB 8002. So I would like to see sort of an ongoing draft, so it's not at the last minute. Can you provide us whatever has been drafted so far, or at least explain what's been drafted so far?
That'll be provided for the February 17th meeting.
What is being worked on?
Well, the chair has asked that I work on parking regulations. So that's what'll be provided to you for the meeting on the 17th.
So you're already drafting them, but you're still seeking input from us. So how is this going to work? Because the public hearing is the tail end of the process. In other words, we need what we consider something that's adoptable before we go to a public hearing, so we can give the public notice of what we plan to adopt. So that would be at the tail end. So right now, it seems to me we need to get all, whatever research we have and work with you on the draft. So I need to know, I guess, what the draft looks like so far, so we can figure out if we have changes to it, rather than waiting till the end of February. That's my concern. The time is going by.
Commissioner Braun, someone has to draft this, and I understand, and I believe the staff is the appropriate person to take a first draft, and the intent of this direction was to direct the staff to undertake that draft. I don't think there's anything to review until a draft exists. It's not the kind of thing that makes sense for a committee to somehow draft together. So I think it's appropriate, and this was the intention of this action, to direct staff to take a first draft of this that we can then review as a commission.
Well, the agenda item doesn't actually even say we're talking about the housing law. Is this agenda item specifically just for this housing law regulations that we want to draft to deal with the housing law?
The motion on the table, which does flow from the item on the agenda, item C, is with regard to parking regulations specifically. And given that there's a law that puts requirements on how parking regulations can be drafted, yes, those pertains to the state law.
So I would suggest in future,
We wouldn't be drafting parking regulations that don't conform with state law.
well, we're actually trying to draft parking regulations that we don't have to, but that we want to protect some of our land from the parking regulation. That's my understanding. But I believe that this agenda item is really not transparent enough. It doesn't really indicate, and I would ask that I, as secretary, be involved in the agendas going forward, because I would not have drafted it this way. I would have actually been prepared with more detail, and maybe I would have asked to see the draft staff is working on if I knew what this was about. All it says is priority zoning regulations amendments discussion. It actually doesn't even say that any action would be taken place. So I would ask the chair to direct staff to provide me with a draft of the agenda before it gets published, because I've been seeking that for months now.
Commissioner,
I'm not finished with my request.
the point of this
I'm not-
motion is to direct the staff to begin drafting. There's nothing to share with you until a
Well,
draft.
well, I'm not finished with my request. When the agenda does not indicate what the purpose is, and it just has a line with nothing on it, it's hard for the commission or the public to know what we are doing here. So I would have been much better prepared to know we're talking about the parking, because there's a whole lot of stuff we could do. I've been talking to people around the state. There's a lot more than the parking to the 4% zones. There's more that we could be doing, and we should actually be directing staff right now on what needs to be done, instead of waiting till we get a draft on the 17th and then start talking about it. Also, to Commissioner Monahan's point and Commissioner Capozzi's point, we should not be going offline and having private meetings with people around town to figure things out. I think the engineering department, combined with our staff, combined with any other departments with expertise, should be weighing in on this and giving us data and information. We don't know what comprises 4% of the town. How big is that? Where is it? How big is the circle? And we need to find out from businesses, from maybe conservation, from WPCA, from engineering, different things. What should we be worried about in terms of having parking overflowed onto the street by allowing 16-unit apartment buildings where we're not allowed to require any parking? There might be areas where no one's going to develop. That's something that staff can probably tell us, and Mark Barnhart can probably tell us. There might be areas we don't have to worry about where it would be a problem with overflow parking, but nobody's going to put it there. Nobody's going to try. So I think we need more than just on our own randomly doing ad hoc private investigations of this. I'd really like to see a whole lot more information coming into us so we can properly figure out the best places. 8% is not that much and it needs to be designated properly.
Point of order, I move to vote.
Okay, the question on the table is, a motion to direct the staff to draft zoning regulations in compliance with, an act concerning housing growth. All those in favor
Oh,
of,
with dates.
with, so,
Deadlines for
so
commissioner.
the
Yeah.
commit, okay, so the motion, I think that the request to commissioners to provide input is proper outside of the motion. That is how I would.
Yeah, I just
I
want to
would
make sure that
recommend doing
we,
Yeah, I
we're clear
agree we
on
need
the
deadlines.
deadlines for commissioners to provide comments.
God.
So the motion on the table is to direct staff to draft parking regulations in compliance with the with an act concerning public housing. Is there guidance you could give us on the realistic timing for that?
Well, I mean, I think the statute is pretty clear.
I'm sorry, on timing for a first draft, not for
Well, I
the,
think we can have a first draft for February 17th. My assumption when we do these public hearings is that this is an opportunity for the commission to discuss amongst themselves whether or not there are changes that are appropriate, to vote on whether or not that you want to make those changes. It really just kind of kickstarts the commission's discussion amongst yourselves to really talk through this regulation. So it's not the end part of the process. It's the launching part of the process with the commission together, having this discussion about the pending regulations. So that's the way I would interpret it as staff.
that's how I would interpret it as well. All those in favor?
I'm not finished. I have a question for staff.
So we have to, hang on, so the point of order, really what I think the motion you're trying to make, is you're trying to move the question.
Yes, move the
Then
question.
debate, so that's gonna require a 2/3 vote, so all those in favor of the motion to close debate on this and move to a vote, raise your hand or say aye. All opposed? Okay, so the motion passes 5-2. So the question on the table, again, is to direct staff to draft these parking regulations in compliance with the law, with an objective of having a first draft for review at the February 17th planning meeting. Okay, all those, did I say
Can I move to amend this?
no, this is, the question was moved, so we have to vote on this item now.
It's,
That's the
Robert's
That's
rules.
how the procedure works. All those in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 6-2, 5-2. I'll get it one of these times. The other item for consideration is our DCD regulations. One of the recommendations of our plan of conservation and development included addressing the design commercial district. There were a number of specific changes contemplated with that would bring that district more closely in line with the center design business district. Again, there are a series of items within that to consider, but I would ask for a motion to, again, direct staff to draft regulation amendments that implement those relevant recommendations of our POCD concerning the design commercial district that bring it in line with the center design business district. Commissioner Randolph,
So moved.
is there a second? Commissioner Delgado, Commissioner Randolph.
As the first proposal was made, the staff is the most qualified, they're the most knowledgeable, they've got all the information and are available to commissioners for individual consultation and we'll incorporate any comments or questions by commissioners individually to come up with the first draft, which will be publicly. And I think that they're most qualified to do this. And I'm looking forward to this this opportunity to create a better set of guidelines for development of our downtown.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Delgado.
For all the reasons that Commissioner Randolph is supporting this, I also think that both be and making exchanges.
Thank you. Commissioner Monahan.
Not everyone is thrilled with the POCD and all of the working in the POCD. And so while I highly respect the staff and I understand that, you know, you want them to create certain, you know, regulations, I also believe that a lot of people in this town believe that the downtown is already becoming way too dense. We're not looking at traffic studies, traffic patterns, the implementation, the creation of all of these apartments up and down the Post Road, the new Porsche dealership that hasn't opened, the developments we're going to be hearing about tonight, you know, and others. And so I think that more needs to be done to look at traffic and how much we can actually handle downtown before we start, you know, completely changing zones and encouraging more density in areas that, you know, we want to take a break in certain areas to say, let's see how things shake out before we add even more density. I did not know, and I'm not sure if everyone here knew, that 15 Uncle Road is coming down in April, and there'll be 50 apartments built there as well. So between that, Porsche dealership, the developments we'll be hearing about tonight, the Circle Hotel that will now become residential, and so on and so forth. It's a lot of density for downtown already, and making substantive changes, you know, to existing regulations. You know, I just think it's, sometimes I think we need to take a bit of a break before we encourage even more density,
Thank you.
especially off the Post Road.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun.
Yes, I think before we start drafting regulations to implement any component of the POCD, especially downtown, we need to understand what the current situation is. We need to know what has already been approved but not yet built. That has to be factored in. We need to do holistic traffic studies of the entire area from Southport to Bridgeport, basically. And we need to do parking studies as well. And we need to do stormwater flooding studies, not just for what our infrastructure is, but what is happening with the overdevelopment that's already taking place. We're adding so many impervious surfaces. So I think we need 3 studies. And we did discuss this when we were talking about the POCD, that nothing would be implemented until we did our studies, and that needs to be done. The POCD is a guidance document. It does not need to take place right now. We do not need to do anything with it right now. We need to understand where we are to understand the impact of what we could be doing. Because the minute we start passing regulations, we'll be getting applications in for that. So I don't think we should be doing any drafting any regulations without doing these studies first.
Thank you, Commissioner. Additional comments? Commissioner Delgado.
The purpose of this is only to draft for.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I think the purpose of the motion, right, is to draft the regulations that can then further conversation jointly as a commission. So I don't think that the drafting of the amendments, we're not looking to pass them right now. We're looking to draft them and understand them. But I don't see any harm in seeing what potential amendment would look like. That's essentially what we're doing right now. So like.
Commissioner Levy.
Go ahead.
I would agree that under the circumstances, let's get a draft. And all of the comments made by fellow commissioners, all of those issues and timing and what additional studies can all be addressed, but the initial draft will serve as an outline. It'll also prompt discussion by seeing that draft as to whether or not the commission as a whole feels that that's the direction we want to take, or may add to or subtract from that draft. But let's get it on the table, and then we can have all these discussions.
Commissioner Monahan.
So we're talking about potentially taking 8% of our town and making them exempt from the parking. At the same time, we're talking about changing zones. That certain zones, and we're just gonna potentially draft without any action. I think if we're gonna draft without any action, we have a lot of other work to do on other topics where we can better spend our time.
Commissioner Randolph.
I'm sorry, I'm just really frustrated here because the purpose of zoning is to establish the possibility for development. It is not site plan approval. And the terms that are being used by my fellow commissioners are conflating zoning changes with site plan approval. Site plan approval, as we see every week, specifies traffic, specifies stormwater, specifies wetlands evaluation, all which are done outside of our commission. They're done by the engineering entities. So to assume that we know what's going to go here after we submit change zoning is flawed. It's a flawed concept. It is incorrect and it's misleading to the public. Every project that comes before us tonight, we're going to see some of them, I hope, will have to go through a proper engineering evaluation to address the questions you raised. So I am very frustrated by the misdirection of this conversation. These issues will be addressed at site plan submission by licensed professionals, by our own internal staff, and by the engineering department in order to evaluate these issues and concerns.
Commissioner Braun.
Yes, when we wear planning hats, we have very broad discretion. We're almost acting as legislators, okay? When we did the POCD discussions over a number of months and years, we always said we would be doing our studies and understanding things before we implemented any regulations. And I don't think we should be implementing any regulations now without conducting those studies and knowing where we are now and what the potential impact could be. Because once the applications come in, they will be taking advantage of those regulations, and we will not have done a holistic cumulative effect study of stormwater, flooding, drainage, of parking overflow, and of traffic congestion. So I think it is almost negligent if we were to start drafting regulations without doing our homework first. The foundation for a good regulation is knowing where you are now. We need to accommodate a whole bunch of units that are approved but not even built yet around town. Okay, we've got Fairfield Place that was done. We've got Thorpe Street coming in. We've got 15 Uncle Road. We've got hundreds of units already approved around town in this area and more to come. So we should not also be burdening our staff to drafting regulations to implement the POCD that was just adopted a month ago or so, when we have a housing law that we have to deal with right now. We've got until June 30th to do what we can do to protect ourselves from what I call the parking ban. It's not a complete ban, but it's a complicated law that requires understanding of wiggle room we have to protect as much as we can of our town from our inability to require parking. And even the parts that we are allowed to require parking, it's dependent on what the applicant proposes in a parking needs study. So there are restrictions on what we can do with the parking section of the housing law. There's also another section we haven't even talked about, which is commercial to residential conversion as of right. There's a whole lot of stuff that can be done without our discretion, without a public hearing. And we need to be passing regulations now to deal with that angle, to try to preserve as much of what we want to see developed when these conversions start coming in on July 1st. To me, that's the top priority that we should be expecting our staff to do. We do not have to immediately start drafting regulations to implement the POCD. We need right now to have our town council, a land use expert, come in and explain what wiggle room we have to strategize to understand exactly what we can do to protect our town. That is what we were elected to do. We were not elected to immediately pass regulations without studies or knowing what the impact would be of the POCD. That is a 10-year plan. We need to be dealing with the housing law that was passed, portions of it will go into effect on July 1st. That's what we should be asking our staff to do.
Thank you. Commissioner Capozzi.
I just had a question for Ms. Harrigan. When you draft, excuse me, when you draft these the parking regulations and the subsequent draft of the zoning regulations for us to review, will you cite two specific paragraphs in the new law that we are addressing in these? So it just gives us a little clarity on where we might have actual input versus what we're sort of required to do under the new law.
Yes, and I would say, let me be clear that development is going to continue to happen. I think that when we talk about the design commercial district, which is where we need to make the most broad revisions to our regulations, that's to decrease the auto-centric development form that's there presently, and to introduce more of what everyone loves in Fairfield downtown, buildings closer to the sidewalk, pedestrian-oriented vitality. That's what we're looking to draft per the policy direction of the POCD with the design commercial district, more walkable environments. Because what I'm seeing right now is very rapidly aging building stock. And if we don't address this, we're going to continue to get developments with parking lots in the front. And I think that's really what we're talking about here, is getting ahead of the redevelopment pressures within our commercial corridors, because that's going to happen irregardless of HB 8002. It's just happening because the building stock is aging so rapidly.
Commissioner Monahan.
I see not rapidly aging housing stock everywhere. I see charm. I see what people move to Fairfield for, which is less hardscape and less brick and mortar and more buildings that, maintain the historic integrity and the charm of Fairfield. So, not everything, in my opinion, that's older needs to be torn down and redeveloped. Things can be updated, and not every building throughout town we want to look. So it may be different in Newport, but that's not the way I see it in Fairfield.
I think what I would say is
I'll come back to
a lot of, I think it'll be important for us to figure out what are those qualitative aspects that we want to see and articulate it in a way that then can be, implemented in our code. So a lot of the ways that we can continue to keep that charm and understand what you're saying is to figure out exactly what it is we want to make sure our code requires so that it maintains. I want to make sure that that's clear, that that's part of what we can do as part of this. Whether that's DCD regulations or commercial areas or broadly.
Commissioner Posey and then Braun.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that we return to a vote on the previous question.
Just to correct, the motion would be to end debate. Vote on the original question.
Yes, correct. I move to end debate and vote on the original question.
And again, this requires a vote. All those in favor of the motion to close debate and move to the previous question, raise your hand. All those opposed. Motion carries 5-2. All those in favor of the motion to direct staff to draft regulation amendments for the design commercial district per the recommendations of the POCD, please raise your hand or say aye. Those opposed? The motion passes 5-2. Next is pre-application review.
Excuse me, I have a motion to make.
Commissioner Braun.
This is an open forum, right? We can raise whatever issues we feel should be done under the area of regulations. Priority regulations. So I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to report back on her doings relating to any regulations being drafted, whether they're the DCD, Design Commercial District, or related to implement the housing, the housing law. And that she provide drafts to us, as well as that she conduct research that she provides to us of recommended housing, of recommended parking exemption zones. As part of that, I guess I need to do a multifaceted motion. We need research. So we need traffic studies, parking studies, and stormwater studies in the downtown area as part of her drafting those regulations. So that is my motion, that she conduct research on traffic, parking, and stormwater in any area where the DCD regulations could apply. And that she,
This motion is improper. You cannot make a motion that amends a previously adopted motion.
I'm making a new motion.
Cannot make a new
I'm
motion.
not amending it.
materially
I'm making a new
amends.
motion.
The
I'm
new
making a motion.
The commission, this is out of order. You're making a motion that materially amends a previously resolved motion.
So I'll make a new motion. I make a motion that our staff provide us with updates of any regulations she's working on, and that she conduct or provide us with information on how we could conduct studies of traffic, parking, and stormwater in any DCD areas.
Motion is to request. Motion is to request that staff reports on any regulations it is drafting and provide studies on parking, stormwater, and traffic. Is that accurate?
Yes, in any design commercial district areas.
Is there a second? Mr. Monahan seconds. Anything
Okay, so
further?
the reason for this is before we draft, as we draft regulations, this commission is allowing staff to assist us in drafting them. We need to know what's being drafted before a final product is put forward in order to be more efficient, especially since certain regulations might have deadlines that we need to pass them by. The PLCD, we do not. That's up to us. But anything related to the housing law, we do have deadlines. We need to make sure whatever we are passing is implemented before July 1st. Otherwise, we'll look at applications and then we will not have those zones set up. So it's important that we have whatever research that's being done be done. So, and we need to have report backs on what is being worked on. It should not be done offline. It should be done in the public forum.
I know I'm not a member of the commission, but can I add something, please? So the commission was pretty direct in terms of some of the conversation about what zoning regulations would be helpful for the commission. So one of the things that we're working on is allowing for third-party reviews, similar to what Inland Wetlands Commission can do. I think this has come up on prior applications. So we are working on some process-related regulations in conjunction with the town attorney to allow for third-party reviews to be paid for by the applicant. I think it was a suggestion of this commission that we add significant budget to our department budget to be able to do that. That has not been something that has been recommended to us. It's been recommended that we follow the model of the Inland Wetlands Commission and have applicants pay for third-party reviews. So we're working on those regulations. We're also working on stormwater and sightline regulations with the DPW department to integrate those into our zoning regulations. That will be coming before you as well. We're working on lighting requirements with a member of the Conservation Commission and some other things. That's really all we have on our plate right now. That's a lot in terms of the process of getting these referred out per state statute, getting them notification to adjacent municipalities as required as well. So that's a lot. We're in process. However, we did certainly make this known that we're working on zoning regulation amendments to other town departments. The conservation director came and visited me today about a regulation that he would like to work on as well. So some of these are not necessarily driven by commission requests. They're driven by other departments, realizing that there's a need to articulate some standards within our zoning regulations, and we're trying to move those forward as well, which I think help this commission to be able to operate with a better framework for the decisions that they make.
So thank you very much, and I very much appreciate the report back, and I would love to have a report back like that every time we meet. I would actually like to have that on our agenda, which is something I've been requesting. So you have a lot on your plate, Ms. Harrigan, and I have another question, not to add more to your plate, but to get prepared for the commercial to residential conversion, which will become effective on July 1st. Are we drafting any regulations, sort of like form-based code, so we can dictate what type of things we want within the new law? It's not going to be easy, and that's what other towns are discussing.
I don't think that there's any change in the form because it's an existing structure. So it's not, you're not changing a zone from commercial to residential. You are being able to convert a pre-existing commercial building that has met a certain vacancy requirement. And that's not going to change that particular building. It's a conversion of an existing building, much like we saw with the 60 Katona application, where that was an underutilized commercial office building that was initially proposed to be converted to 100% residential. Instead, it ended up being purchased by a daycare facility. But, you know, that's kind of, I think that's the intention of the statute, are those types of projects where it's not, you know, it's not a change in form because it's an existing building.
Well, I guess my concern is that the new law does not allow us to hold a public hearing or to have any discretion whatsoever in imposing conditions of approval. And I recall with the Katona, we had a lengthy public hearing and we put conditions of approval on it, things to do with parking and things like that. So with the new law, when that becomes effective, we won't be allowed to. And I would really like, again, our town council to advise us on what we can or should do to preserve as much of what we want. And that might require passing regulations dictating that, you know, that would be acceptable under the new law.
Commissioner Monahan.
Thank you for that update. That's really, really helpful. What is our last traffic study? When did we do a traffic study recently? And do we have any parking, stormwater, or traffic studies of late? Or are we looking back 3, 4, 5 years? Is anything
About
budgeted?
Townwide.
No, just in certain areas of
So
town.
we have a stormwater study for downtown, which was done in 2019.
2019, okay.
We have,
So that was finished in 2019 from data from when?
well, the built environment hasn't really changed that much in that area where they did the study. And so, you know, there was also the underpass study, which looked at drainage capacity within going further west to the Mill River. So that was done in 2023. We have the Post Road Circle study, which was completed in 2020, 2021. And we have the Black Rock Turnpike Safety Study, which also looked at traffic within that corridor. But then you have every single development beyond that that looks at traffic within that corridor. So they're doing counts as well. DOT does counts every year on the Post Road. So, you know, there's data out there.
You should just have that.
Commissioner Randolph.
I will not be supporting this motion on the table, which is supposed to be what we're discussing right now. We've got an agenda, we've got a room full of people here. And as Mr. Green, who was here, often says, this is not time for workshopping. Okay, so there's a motion on the table. I will not be supporting it because what is requested is what is done in the normal course of business. The two commissioners who are asking for this were the two commissioners who voted against us having a monthly planning meeting, which is when this will be discussed. It is not on tonight's agenda to have this workshop. So I'm going to be voting against this proposal.
Any additional comments? Okay, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor of the motion to request the updates from staff as articulated by Commissioner Braun and the reports as articulated by Commissioner Braun from staff, raise your hand or say aye. All those opposed, raise your hand or say aye. Motion fails 2-5. 168 Kings Drive, apologies.
I have one more motion.
Go ahead, Commissioner Braun.
Since we're on the planning topic, I have a motion that we seek engagement of the town attorney or a land use attorney to advise us on what can or should be done to deal with HB H002, which was enacted as 25, Public Act 25-1.
Thank you. The motion is to seek counsel from town attorney on what can be done with regards to an act concerning concerning housing growth. Is there a second? Commissioner Monahan seconds. Go ahead, Commissioner Braun.
Okay, so I've been saying this for a few months. I'll just repeat it very briefly. We do not have legal strategy set up. We are starting to create regulations. We don't know how far we can go. We don't know how we could be exactly impacted. We need a land use attorney to guide us and advise us on what we can or potentially what other towns are doing to preserve as much of our discretionary authority as we can to plan how our town will develop, given that the new housing law prevents public hearings and a lot of discretion for many types of applications. So I understand we're going to start drafting regulations. Concurrent with that process, we need to hear from an attorney to tell us what we could or should do and what the deadlines are.
Thank you. Commissioner Monahan.
And I think it's really important that we get information and, you know, not being able to get the counsel from the town attorney. Most towns in the area, their TPZ have already met with town attorneys to discuss this. Information on parking, stormwater, traffic, in addition to legal advice and counsel is just imperative to doing our things.
Commissioner Capozzi.
My understanding is that we're waiting on an appointment with the town attorney. Isn't that correct?
I don't believe that's correct.
Oh, okay. I thought that there was a request to meet with the town attorney.
I'm not aware of a formal request.
Okay.
So by this motion, I'm making that formal request. And I just want to point out that I read a quote from Attorney Tim Hollister at a prior meeting. I don't have it in front of me right now, but he did a 3-part series tearing apart the process and the end result of that housing law known as HB 8002. It was done last minute on an emergency basis. There was no public hearing, and we ended up with conflicting provisions, things that don't make sense, things that are impossible to do. And it's basically a mess. So, and it's complicated and it has many moving parts. So based on all that, I think this commission needs to be advised by a land use specialist on what we can do, what we could do, what we should do. My understanding is there's no regulations we actually have to pass. There's regulations we want to pass to protect us as much as possible, like the 8% set aside, exempt from, more or less exempt from the parking ban, but not completely exempt. So I think based on that, I urge everyone to read. I think it's in the Connecticut Mirror. Read what Attorney Hollister said, because if you read that, you'll want us to get legal advice, and I think we need that. We are not doing right by our constituents if we don't become informed of how the reach, breadth, and the sweeping breadth of this law. We need to do that as we go forward. Now that we are going forward, we need to do that.
I would just say our town attorney is not a land use attorney. He's a town attorney. And we happen to be fortunate to have a planning director who was the president of the Connecticut chapter of the American Planning Association. And I can't think of a person who is more qualified to advise us on the implementation of this new law than our planning director. We routinely make decisions, pass regulations, pass zoning map changes in accordance with state law without guidance from a town attorney. And this seems, if in the course of passing regulations related to an act concerning housing growth, we need to get an opinion on what we're proposing from a town attorney, we can do that. It seems to me like there's an unnecessary exercise to get a general municipal attorney who's not a specialist in land use law to come and present to us on something that our staff is more than capable of guiding us on.
Well,
Commissioner Brock, go ahead.
there's a land use attorney in Cohen and Wolf. They are a town attorney. Attorney Sullivan. She gave an excellent legal advice on us on using concept reviews in conjunction with 8-30Gs. And we can use her. But it behooves us to become well-educated. Our staff is not an attorney. So being knowledgeable is not the same as getting legal advice. Anyone who tries to go to court without a lawyer will tell you that. You need legal advice, someone who's studied this law, who's in the land use community, who can advise us accordingly. Otherwise, we don't know. It's not so much passing a regulation that doesn't violate the law. It's what could we pass? How do we strategize so we can put our town first and not not lose what discretionary authority we have? There are things we could be passing that we need to know about. How far can we go? What can we do?
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to request presentation and guidance from the town attorney, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, raise your hand or say aye. Motion fails 5-2. Attorney blank. 168 Kings Drive, request of John Moransky, trustee for Christopher Coco and Andre Karski for a non-binding pre-supplication review of a proposed 6-unit townhouse style development, decrease from a prior 10-unit 830G project in a residence. Azo.
Thank you. Adam Blank, and with me is Emma Dignati from Ofsey Rosen, here on behalf of the applicant who you've just named. First of all, can we get the okay to share screen? I think it was deactivated.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry.
Well, while she's getting access, within the last year, this commission granted the applicant a certificate of zoning compliance for a 10-unit residential development pursuant to 8-33. The show the area. Go back to those. So maybe you can screen it. You can see there the kind of shaded in yellow, but it's a little hard to see. That's the parcel that we're talking about. They're sort of nestled between the post road and 95. The 10-unit approved development. Here's just a color landscape plan, but it kind of helps depict it. You can see there's 3 structures, one with 4 units and 2 with 3 units. Those were 10 townhouse style units. That application, like most of the 8-30Gs, was fairly well contested, predominantly by neighbors. It was approved by this commission. We, in discussions with Joel Green and his client, which was some of the neighbors, not exactly all of the neighbors, we came to an agreement in exchange for them not taking an appeal of that approval, that we would try to work up a 6-unit, a smaller scale development that would be more compatible with the neighborhood and help appease the neighbors that felt that 10 units was too much. We're willing to move forward with the original approval that we retained. But we do want to be a good neighbor and honor our handshake agreement. So we're here to get your feedback on the 6-unit proposed development. And I want to sort of be upfront with you, the 6-unit development, it's a lot less units. It is financially feasible, but only if the units are market rate. So what that means is, under the original proposal, there was 10 units, 3 were going to be below market, 7 were going to be market rate units for that total of 10. So we're going to eliminate 1 market rate, 3 below market rate units for 6 units. If you can show the new, that was the old, and this is, you can go back. The old, these were the townhouse style units that you've approved. And that's what they look like. And it's the next one more. So this is again, a color landscape plan of the, what's now being proposed or under the pre-application for discussion. It's same three buildings. Each building though now would only contain 2 units. It's a little bit hard to tell, but those buildings are pulled in towards the middle of the site away from the neighbors. Obviously, much smaller structures, less units, but in general, we go to the architecturals. In general, it's a similar look and feel to the original. There's 2 garage spaces in each unit. There's about 6 surface, well, there are 6 surface spaces in addition to the garage spaces, which gives you 3 spaces a unit, so it will remain sort of amply parked. Obviously the bulk is what's being reduced here predominantly. There's a much broader buildings originally, much smaller now. We'd love to move forward with the 6-unit project and willing to move forward with that. The issue that we have is that in order to do that, you've got to change your regulations. You can't just, as of right, we can't just plug this in. So we would require a change in your regulations to allow for a 6-unit development. So the first question, and we've got about 10 minutes of talking and whatever, and we know you got a big agenda, but whatever you want us to answer, we're happy to try to answer for you. But the first question is, are you comfortable with the 6-unit development? Do you like the 6-unit development? Are you willing to do that to make the neighbors happy? Joel was here. You may have seen him a few minutes ago. He did have to leave at 7:30, but he did want me to convey that he's supportive of this pre-app and would very much like the 6-unit project to be looked favorably upon by you folks. So first question, do you like the plan in general? And the second question is, if you do, and you're comfortable with 6 units instead of 10, how do we effectuate that? How do we move forward with the 6-unit development? There's lots of ways that you can get there. We have, and Emma's going to talk to you in a couple of minutes about that. We've come up with 3 very different sort of options to allow for that, which range from a change in the regs that is likely to impact this particular property and potentially 1 or 2 or no others in the town, to a townwide, district-wide middle housing regulation that would have potentially broad application. So we're looking for some feedback from you folks on how broad or narrow you might like a regulation tailored to allow for this if you want to be supportive of the 6-unit plan. That's my quick overview. I'll let Emma will talk to you about the 3 different options that we've come up with, and she can kind of give you the highlights of the differences amongst those 3 options.
Sure. So this property is zoned in the Residence A zone, but as you can see from this sort of zoomed in version of the zoning map, it's proximately located to a variety of other sporadically placed DRD parcels. So we've designed 3 potential text change options to facilitate the scaled back development that we and the neighbors, are hoping to accomplish at 168 Kings Drive. So option 1, the first option stays in section 3, the single family residence district section of your regulations. And this option requires only a text change, no map change. And it would allow up to 6 units of housing to be developed in the Residence A zone, provided that the same lot has a current but not yet constructed approval for 10 units or more of housing under 830G. It would make clear that development pursuant to this section need not provide affordable units. It would also relax other requirements otherwise applicable in the Residence A zone, such as the height of building structures and the number of stories, as long as those characteristics did not exceed the previously approved metrics for the larger 830G. Option 1. Option 2. Now we're in section 10, the designed residence district section of your regulations, and this option.
Sorry, can I just interrupt on that?
Yeah.
That first one was going to have very, very limited applicability other than this.
Folks, can you we have microphones in the ceiling and talk interferes with the transcript. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just said that first option as you heard it, it's 10 units. You have to have an approval for 10 units that's not built, and you can build up to 6 units under the reg. It's going to have very limited applicability. So that's really limited.
That's helpful. So option 2, this one would require both a text change and a map change into the DRD overlay. The concept of this text change is very similar to the first option. The main difference is that the regulation would be located in section 10 of your regulations. But again, in this one, the development would not need to provide affordable units, and also certain features that are otherwise applicable would not apply to this development as long as those characteristics, again, did not exceed the previously approved. Then option 3, we added in response to comments from staff during code review. And this option is unrelated to any 830G approval, unlike options 1 and 2. So this one would be a little bit more broad, and this would allow up to 9 units to be constructed on a parcel in the DRD where the underlying zone is Residence A. The maximum allowable density would be 9 units per acre, although the minimum lot size would only be 2/3 of an acre in order to accommodate this type of middle housing development on smaller type of parcels. And again, with the first 2 options, it does remove the need to provide affordable or below market rate units. And certain other requirements of the DRD would not apply as well, including access and setbacks, and the height requirement would be slightly relaxed.
And just one clarification on that change. Although the reg change we've proposed is it could be a 9-unit cap. Because of our lot size, we couldn't actually do 9 units.
Right.
We could only do 6, and we can talk to you about why we're saying 9 then.
Right, so as to 9 specifically, middle housing is typically defined as housing that contains between 2 and 9 units of housing. So that's one of the reasons for the 9. The other reason is responsive to the recently passed HB 8002. I'll touch on that in a moment. But while I'm here on the POCD slide, the text changes that we're proposing are really responsive to the goals included in the recently passed POCD relating to the missing middle housing. For example, one action item that was identified in POCD strategy A was to diversify housing options in strategic locations, and specifically to undertake a study to identify missing middle housing types and assess in all residential districts where they might be permitted. And based on that study, the goal was to explore permitting additional residential density in select areas and regulating it with design standards. Then another goal of the POCD was to explore hybrid form-based zoning as a way of introducing more missing middle housing, again, typologies that will be more affordable than the currently permitted housing options. Like I mentioned, missing middle housing is typically defined as housing between 2 and 9 units. And as your POCD points out, these housing typologies have gained national attention, with communities, looking to encourage more multifamily housing that can better blend with single-family neighborhoods. And your POCD also notes that achieving a greater stock of missing middle housing can be accomplished with a range of buildings with multiple units, like you see on the slide, that are compatible in scale and form with detached single-family homes. And then I'll just close with a brief reference to HB 8002. And like I said, allowing flexibility for developments of up to 9 units finds support in this as well. So for example, the first section you see on the slide, which is 11A3, defines transit community middle housing developments as those containing anywhere from 2 to 9 dwelling units, including notably duplexes. And then section 11E1A, which is the second section you see on the slide, provides the requirement that a qualifying transit-oriented community allow as of right in any transit-oriented district, transit community middle housing developments, if the development contains 9 or fewer dwelling units. And it's not our claim that this development should be allowed as of right based on the statute, but really just that the statute's focus on middle housing of up to 9 units lends support for you all as you consider the text changes that we're proposing. So thank you for your consideration, and we're open to any questions or feedback that you have.
Questions?
Commissioner Braun.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I have a question for the attorney. I didn't catch your last name. Your first name was Anna.
Emma.
Is it your understanding that HB 8002 requires us if this was in a transit area, would this be as of right, or would we be able to opt into that? In other words, would this development that you're proposing be allowed as of right under the new housing law?
Yeah, so there's a number of features that would have to be met in order to qualify under the law, including that it would have to be in a transit-oriented district. I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah,
to add.
I suspect that it would not, but you're like pretty far from either being designated a transit-oriented community or district at this point. So this is not going to mirror the bill. The only purpose of us pointing that out is that what would mirror it is that the 9 units is sort of their definition of middle housing is up to 9 units. So there's some symmetry to having this use that nine language because it matches what the state wants you to use, but you could make it 6 if you wanted.
And the reason you can't use our regular DRD, I'm sorry, I had a multi-part question, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please.
So the reason you're not doing the DRD is because you don't have minimum, I think 1 acre in A zone would be the minimum acreage. You have about 2/3 of an acre here.
That's right. It's less than an acre. There's a few other requirements that we don't comply with. For example, the access requirement, it's not on a major collector road.
Okay, but the Attorney Green and you have worked out, which of the 3 text amendments did Attorney Green prefer?
So he has not given me feedback on that. Knowing Attorney Green and what matters he typically appears for, I can confidently say it would not be the broader.
Speculate.
But that's, I don't know. But I know that overall, if this could be approved over the 10 unit, that would make his clients happy.
And which one do you prefer? Which one, how are they different? It was a very quick go through. Yeah.
The real, I would say the real difference, the first 2 have a lot of similarities, and those are more of a, hey, if we allow this, it's going to make the neighbors happy. You're going to have a little bit less dense of a project here, and it's not going to set any real precedent. It's not going to have any impact on future applications. And so we're not making a big policy decision. It's really specific to solving a dispute between neighbors and coming up with something that's a little bit less than what was approved under 8-30G. The third option is more of a policy one. If you're a pro-housing person and you'd like to see more middle housing, that's a fine option. I might personally have a preference, but I can't say my client doesn't care as long as they get the project approved and the neighbors are happy. So they'll take any of them, and that's why we propose 3.
And most of the dimensions or the specs sort of go along with the Residence A zone, at least for setbacks. I think the height might be higher than Residence A zone.
Yeah, so the height is in compliance. The number of stories, it's 3.5 stories, so that's slightly higher. I can pull up the site plans, setbacks.
Slightly different.
In the DRD zone, the side setback specifically does not comply, but I believe it does comply with Residence A.
And then you would obviously have, my concern when the application comes in, adequate screening of the right type, native species. There's no wetlands involved from what I recall.
No wetlands, and I don't anticipate issues arising with respect to screening. But the prior one was pretty well screened.
I don't know if I can require this, but I like a New England character. I certainly like the diagram, the pictures you showed better than what the 830G was. But if there's a way of making it look more New England, that's even better. Thanks. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Levy.
Yeah, what is the difference in percentage of lot coverage between the 2 plans?
That's a good question, and I have it here actually. So building lot coverage as percent of lot area. For the current proposal, it's 20.9%, give or take. The prior was 28.9%.
That's roughly an 8% difference.
Yeah.
I mean, to my mind, it looks like, I can appreciate the neighbors' concerns, and they were well expressed at the time. But I spent a fair amount of time examining both of these, plot plans today, and I don't see a significant difference from the perspective of the neighbors. On the western boundary, it's largely the same. On the eastern boundary, you've pulled it back slightly from Garcia. So, I mean, in terms of your, request on a pre-application for, our views, I'm not going to judge it unless and until it's before me, but I'd be inclined to, I'd be far more inclined to go with the slightly higher lot coverage and 3 affordable units rather than having 6. Meanwhile, I am well in favor of, middle housing, but under our current regulations, you would require a full acre here. And I'm not prepared to give up 3 affordable units. I mean, it seems so the only real difference, and it is nicer with the smaller units. Well, it's 6 larger units. Each of the units is larger. It gives the interior a little more space than the 10 units. But in terms of the impact on the neighbors, I think the change is negligible and consistent with the rulings on 830G and the need for affordable housing. I'll defer until the final vote, but I think you know where I'm coming from.
Monahan.
I think this does set a precedent. We have over 2,000 apartments built, not yet built, in the process of being built. And we have a current moratorium, and we're on our way, as they say, to the next moratorium. But a lot of those need to be built. And everything that's been approved, we hope a certain percentage is built so we can maintain that moratorium. So I agree with Commissioner Levy that somebody else can come in and say, I have approval for 90, and now I want you to, to amend, I'll make 60, but in exchange, we're gonna, we set a precedent. So that's the way I see it. It may not be a precedent specific to this zone and the size of the building, but we're saying we're willing to abandon that 830G approval in favor of a smaller, development that may not have been ever approved in the first place.
Thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Randolph.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the commissioner's collective concerns. I think the lot coverage is good. I see residence A, I think it's 30% is what's permitted. I'm sorry, 20% is what's permitted. You're at 21% roughly. I think the intent to come up with a solution for missing middle is enviable. And we do need to do that, but I don't think what you suggested here is necessarily something that is scalable and something we could reproduce on other A lots. Seems to be very specifically tailored. And then we do feel a little bit taken advantage of approved 830G under the burden of the law. I wouldn't say under the burden of the law. And now you're coming back with something that's scaled back, and we've encountered this before, and it doesn't, as a commissioner, I'm just not happy, seeing something back. But I think that, there's some good thought that's gone into this. The neighbors were very upset with the other one. We had to approve this one only because it complied with the law. But I think that there are some good things about this. You're trying to explore missing middle, which is absolutely something we need to do as a community. But the notion of forcing us to do something and then scaling it back it just makes me feel very uncomfortable. Other comments?
Commissioner Capozzi, and then Ron.
I agree with my fellow commissioners that I think that the design from the drawings is lovely, but I agree with my fellow commissioners that using an 830G approval to then create a smaller scale development with no affordable housing is objectionable in my perspective. And I think it's not, again, we don't have the actual plan in front of us to vote on, but I do want to reiterate that we currently have a moratorium. As Commissioner Monahan said, we're going towards one. As Commissioner Levy said, the lot coverage impact is negligible, and I don't think it's worth sacrificing affordable units that we can use. And as Commissioner Randolph said, I don't like the idea of kind of this, as I see it personally, a bait and switch situation. So I think, it's important to build things that conform with the law and that move this town toward maintaining its moratorium on E30G. So we don't have situations like this in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Braun.
I wasn't clear the last time I spoke. I'm completely in favor of the scaled back development. For one thing, this is unfortunately a repercussion of 8-30G. When it ties our hands, it leads to things like this, whether in court or not in court. So I think we should take seriously this compromise option. Many 8-30G cases, when they go up on appeal, regardless of who does the appeal, they end up settling for some kind of compromise, or a compromise is often offered. I'd rather go through that compromise now than wait for a court action to take place. But secondly, could the applicant's attorney tell us again, what is the difference in the height and the footprint? It is smaller because you've got fewer units. I'm trying to understand why everyone's saying there's negligible difference.
Yeah, so the height issue, Commissioner Braun, the number of stories in both the current proposal and the approved proposal is 3.5. And then the current proposal in terms of height, the maximum is 34.15 feet, give or take. The prior approval was 34.72 feet, give or take. So very small difference on height. And then the building lot coverage, which was Commissioner Levy's prior question, the proposal is 20.9%. The approval is 28.9%.
Is that because they're spread out? Why is there not that much of a difference in coverage when you've taken 40% of the units out?
They're a little bigger.
Okay.
And the driveway's fairly similar.
Okay. Yeah, I part of what we do is represent our constituents, and this is a valid compromise solution to what the neighbors felt was atrocious in their neighborhood. So if it's scaled back, fits in better with the ambiance of the neighborhood and quality of life, fewer vehicles going up and down the road, I think we have to seriously consider it. And I support the scaled back, even if it does not have the affordability percentage. I mean, the whole theory of middle housing is build more and more middle housing. Eventually the values will go down because we'll have more and more middle housing. So this allows the middle housing to go in a way the neighbors have compromised. Doesn't mean they love it. It means they've compromised and said, this is the best we can do. So I think we do have to seriously consider these compromises. And that is unfortunately the end result of the 830G law. So I'm completely in favor of the scaled back project, the one that has the least impact on the neighborhood.
Right. Teresa, just two little things. Number one, just on the zoning table that is part of the submission, the building floor area as a percentage of lot coverage drops dramatically from the approved to now. So that's where the big difference comes in. I kind of read the tea leaves a little bit. It's not that hard to read them, but and I have not. I will represent that I don't have any client authority to propose anything other than what's out there. But out of curiosity, would folks feel any differently if there was a proposal to either pay a fee in lieu of the affordable housing into a fund to provide affordable housing, or if the client was willing? And again, I'm not representing that they are, but to provide an offsite unit, something like that, of an offsite affordable housing unit.
Commissioner Levy.
Yeah. Look, first I want to say, I don't feel taken advantage of, nor do I think there's a bait and switch. As been expressed, I appreciate, in fact, that there has been ongoing discussion with the neighbors, and that's appropriate, and that a scaled back plan was considered. My problem is simply the problem with whether or not there's affordable housing. I think the 6 units are preferable to the 10, but at 30%, that would be 1.8 units or 2. But I do note that the other 4 units are larger and might command a higher market rent. So I would hope that you go back to your developer and say, look, we can get more for these 4, which would carry the other 2, and everybody would be a lot happier. In terms of alternatives, I mean, we do have, I believe we did pass one, regulation which allows for similar development off-site in certain circumstances. I don't recall offhand whether or not that would apply here. Yeah, I mean, the biggest concern is that there be affordable units. So if there's, I don't know about a payment in lieu, but if the developer wants to develop affordable units of comparable nature and they're appropriate, that might be something we could consider.
Commissioner Monahan.
So this is the parcel that's completely leveled now, correct? So can you still build maximum number of units?
Yeah, we can build the
There's
10.
nothing that was discovered during the building process that would preclude it. Okay.
If no one else is jumping in, I'll just say I tend to agree with Commissioner Levy. And given we're not talking about a dramatic reduction in unit size, and so we have to weigh that against the loss of the affordable units. Not in favor of, generally speaking, of a payment in lieu. I think one of the things that we had discussed when adopting the regulation allowing us to do that was the idea, and you had suggested the possibility of doing an offsite unit. If anything, I would definitely be more in favor of that than payment in lieu. I think part of the advantage of that is structure it so that the affordable unit has to be delivered earlier as opposed to a payment in lieu, which who knows when that ends up getting us additional affordable units. So I certainly would not be in favor of payment in lieu, but again, I tend to put more value in, given the I'll still call it negligible difference in size between the 2 projects, having the additional affordable units, both in terms of the value of actually having additional affordable units in town, but then also to the HUE points we would get from that toward another moratorium. So that's where I am in this.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Affordable.
There's 3 affordable that we'd be missing,
Plus 1 additional market rate.
plus 1 additional.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's not.
Until they pay.
Okay, thanks. All right, next item is 184 Thorpe Street, a request of Cinto Thorpe LLC for a non-binding pre-supplication review of a proposed 150-unit multifamily residential development in a design residence district zone.
John is online. John Fallon?
Oh, John,
Yes.
Attorney
Okay.
Fallon, all set.
I can. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 2 canceled flights in 2 days, and I'm here on Zoom, and I appreciate your courtesy in that regard. So let me jump right in. I'm going to introduce Bob Cinto in a moment, but we're very excited to present tonight in concept a proposal for a new, beautiful 140-unit residential community that will be named the Dakota at the property located at 185 Thorpe Street. As I introduce Bob, I'll tell you that the vision here is to reimagine this long dormant, industrially used parcel, very central to our downtown and adjacent to a lovely residential community, into a very upscale residential community that, as we'll elaborate on briefly, we think will have very significant benefits to the town and is a very exciting proposal. As I introduce Mr. Cinto, I think everyone or many people I hope are familiar with Bob. He has lived in Fairfield for over 50 years. And I would tell you, and I think you would agree, he has an unsurpassed reputation for uniquely high quality development and exceptional management of those properties, be they commercial or high-end residential communities. So before we offer you a brief overview and leave a lot of time for your input, I'd like to ask Bob Cinto to just give you a brief remark or two in terms of our concept here. Bob?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd just like to present, this is a little brochure that I have. The roughly 50 buildings that I have built over 50 years.
Just, can you go over there for save camera and then just introduce yourself?
Little Bob Cinto. And I lived in this town for a very long time. I would really like to do something very special. So I think that we want to build something that we can be very proud of. We don't sell any real estate. We keep everything we own, family business. And I want this to be a real statement. I like to try to make this, there's a lot of apartments in the town. So I want to separate this project from everything else. We'll make it like a four-season type of a project with amenities, great finishes, and great landscaping. So I appreciate the consideration of this meeting, and I'd like to turn it back over to John.
Thank you, Bob. So what we are proposing, as we'll lay out for you in a moment, is a 140 unit proposal. It will consist of 107 2-bedroom units, 30 1-bedroom units, and three 3-bedroom units. 279 parking spaces are provided. I mentioned before, as I introduced the details, the significant benefits that we think will be derived from this proposal. Let me briefly talk about that. There's currently no public access for this property. And as you will see, we provide meaningful public access and linkage to this title area, which is really an undiscovered gem in our community when you walk the property, even though it's been dedicated to industrial use for so long. The proposal also will create 17 new affordable housing units, that being 12% of our 140. The other thing is this site has been utilized industrially for many, many decades without any benefit of any stormwater management or environmental considerations. Jim Rotundo, our engineer, is here tonight if you should have any detailed questions, but we will be presenting a very detailed project with regard to stormwater management and water quality, which is going to have a significant benefit to the tidal area that it's never had before. Obviously, there's revenue here to consider. There's going to be a lot of jobs generated from this construction, and the tax incentives for the town are going to be significant. You'll also see, and Bob mentioned, that we have committed ourselves to an extravagant landscaping plan befitting his goal and his vision for this property. So all of those things are important to the town, and we think are embodied in this proposal, as is, and I'll identify that in a minute, the transitional benefit we get here for our downtown center and the residential area that abuts us. So to give you the overview of what we're proposing, I'm going to call on Seelan Pater, who is seated there, and we'll walk you through the proposal, and then I'll have a few closing comments, and we will very much appreciate your input. Seelan.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, John. My name is Seelan Patel. I'm a principal at Bienfeld Architecture. Joined my colleague Lance Parasho. Been here before and happy to be back. Hopefully this time with something we think that's considerate and a quality residential project. I'll just do this. Is that okay to flip slides? So I'm gonna look down here because my eyesight's bad. This is a pre-app, so we'll keep this quick and high level, but please stop me if you have any questions. So this is the existing conditions, the map up there today. You see the Post Road at the Page North, Old Street, which says, I'm sorry, wrong signal. Post Road, Pope Street, which will service the entry to the side, Viewmont Street to the left. And then there's a loop inside that is difficult to see unless you zoom in, but you probably know it. It's Granville Street, Bronson Street, and Bungalow Avenue. That loop looks, the C shape at the each north of our site. The primary entrance is from Thorpe Street, and there's only an emergency entrance, and we'll get to this in the site plan off of Granville Street. So, and the project list over Pine Creek over the Pine Creek to the Welsh Terrace Marsh. That's go. All right. There was in my scheme, I'll go straight to the site plan. So this is the site plan. Hey, could you go one more? Sorry, I'm out of sequence here. Sorry. This is what I want to see. So this is what's there today. You can see the site has been leveled. There's the marsh. Here's the post road to the back and the entrance of Thorpe Street. So that's what's here today. That's the site plan. I'm gonna come back to that one more. I'm sorry, go one more. I'm gonna show you this. This is what we want to build today. Sorry, that was supposed to be a dramatic entrance into. It was.
There it is. There it is.
Go back, but that's what we want to build today. We're gonna flesh out the presentation material, and we'll have more of the building to show the next time we come before you, but essentially a high-end residential building with a more modern expression of traditional architectural forms, residential architectural forms, the gable ends. So Mr. Sinter was very clear that he wanted a product that's different from anything that you see in Fairfield. That's what we're attempting to do here. So sorry, John, I'm gonna ask you to go back now to the site plan. Okay, so when Mr. Sinter brought this project before us, he explained that he wanted a quality product, but he also walked us through previous iterations of developments and proposals that came before the town. So you've seen those. While the architecture of the building is very different from the previous proposals, the site layout is similar in that the building on the right, when you come off of Thorpe Street, we're calling it Building B, is in largely the same place of the previous proposal and its relationship to Pine Creek. And then the Building A and its relationship to Marsh is also largely in the same place. But to bring a conclusion to that reference is that the last building was joined, that these two are separate. In terms of the site and the way that the procession works is you come in off Thorpe Street, there's a security gate with a security guard house at the front. That's different. Again, speaks to a higher level of product. Come in, and on the right side is a recreation area. That recreation area is close to the school, the recreation area of the school. We think that's appropriate. When you come down, visitors parking, and then there's two radius that serve as turning circles, as drop-offs, but also creates a sense of entry to both the buildings, to Building A and Building B. There's heavily planted edges, both at the residential edge and at the building edge. Bill Kenny will walk you through that. There's an elaborate Italian-inspired garden, which is appropriate, between the two buildings with the connections to the walk and to the marsh. Bill will walk through that. The general idea is to create this three-story, like a market three-story building in this bucolic setting that overlooks the marsh. Again, the site speaks to the differentiation of product in Fairfield. So these are the two, so I'll walk you through this now to the plans. These are the two basements. So we thought that we could have put the parking on grade, but Mr. Sinter wanted an elevated product with covered parking. So both buildings have below grade parking. As a function of the flooding aspect and planning for that, the garages are open towards the marsh, but the level behind the garage at the entrance level, they're essentially closed off, and you'll see that the rendering. So when you're arriving, you don't see the garage, but when you're at the back, you will see it. That's the function of allowing the flood waters to come in and recede. If you are a resident, Building A, you have two entrances, one at the far end on the left and one at the near end on the right. Building B has one entrance on the right. Again, if you're a resident, you'd go down there and you have your elevators to take you up. This is the first floor. So if you were, and the way I usually describe this, if you were the first time or if you're a resident. So if you're a resident, again, you'll go down to your parking, you know where you are. You'll go up into the units above. If you're arriving for the first time, you'll be guided with signage to building A. And that's the amenity, the main amenity building. Mr. Cinto has an idea, a good feel for drama. We try to create that here. So it's a sense of entry with a turning radius and a drop off outside of what is the green area, the amenity of building A. And then it's a large glass facade, a 2-volume space, a large courtyard outside, and then the marsh. So you look through and through. You look through the glass, over the amenity, over the courtyard, and over the marsh, over the pool and over the marsh. So hopefully pretty dramatic. It's a high-end apartment. You've seen these before, but the apartments here are larger. And it speaks to what we're trying to do, but amenitize the building and amenitize the apartments. So they're slightly larger in size, and that's why you see sizes there ranging from 1,100 to 1,400 square foot. Typical apartment layouts, again, finishes in apartments be curated to speak to that higher level. But you'll have your basic amenities like your trash chutes and your elevators. All your apartments are accessible. Just typical upper floor. What I guess what the last one showed is that the roof line is set back in certain areas. We included this early days, but just to show you that the apartments are going to be slightly elevated. And what this shows, for example, that you don't do in my world anyway, on regular apartments is like a powder room and a 1-bedroom. It's a nice product. A den and a powder room. I should have shown a powder room in the 2-bed also. And while I'm here, I'll just speak to the idea of amenities. You've seen some of our buildings, and we do a really highly amenitized product, and we treat those with care because we believe that creates a sense of place, in the building. Mr. Sinton wants to take it a step further. So while you'll see like a gym and a yoga room and a bar for residents and lounges and a golf simulator in some of our projects, like the Anchorage, for example, he's speaking about doing a spa with a sauna and steam room and all the humans that go with that. He has a passion for art and wants to do a room where adults can learn art and have classes and have people come in to teach that, and including a car service to take people around town so they don't have to use their own car. So it's a shared ride environment, but more because he wants it to be, again, different from the product provided. So, and we think we can attract 140 people who are like-minded. So finally, just speaking to the idea of higher level of finishes, that's, I can't read that. So on the left is white terracotta cladding. Mr. Center has done this in a series of his buildings, passionate about the material, drove us around to show us how he's used it before. So that's what that is, and the 2 gable ends. Again, that dramatic glass portion in the middle. Of course, we're close to the water. We thought appropriate on either side for weathered wood on the buildings with a flat roof to bring in the New England feel at the base, a New England ledge stone, just to hint at that these are where the forms came from, and then a lot of glass. We have Juliet balconies. You can't see them at each of those windows and on the unit, so that you have those doors open out, and a lot of glass in them, but high-end materials. So, Bo, you want to go through the landscape?
Good evening, I'm Bill Kenny, the principal of William Kenny Associates here in Fairfield on Bronson Road. I am a landscape architect and ecologist. Very excited. I'll just sit you. Sure, great. Excited to be here and working for Bob Cinto on this project. It's a really exciting project. As both an ecologist and a landscape architect, I really think it's going to be a great thing. We've been developing the landscape on this conceptual level. And some of those, the objectives, the primary objectives that we're having and working with Bob and the team is to, one, integrate into the surrounding, both the natural environment with the marsh and the residential neighborhood, and really be respectful of both of those surroundings. Two, to enhance and complement the architecture and working with the architecture that, the beautiful architecture that's being developed. And lastly, do all of this in a very thoughtful and ecological stewardship. So with that in mind, there are really three primary landscape types on the property. There's the landscape around the architecture, and the architecture is very refined and clean. The traditional forms and shapes, but that really refine more modern appearance. And so we're looking to have a very refined landscape in close proximity to the architecture. We'll be focusing on accenting and complementing the architecture to create a very inviting outdoor spaces. And there'll be a variety of outdoor spaces around the building. There'll be entry courts that and gardens associated with those, and there'll be also some interior courts, a courtyard between the two buildings in the bottom right-hand corner of the plan that you see on the screen. And that's going to be a very formal area there that leads you from across the property from the backside out towards the marsh, and with a terminus of a boardwalk and a viewport into the marsh, and get up close to the marsh environment. There'll be a roof deck, a beautiful roof deck with courtyards over the building, the back half of the building on the left, that will include a pool and other gathering spaces, and many opportunities for people to spend time outside and experience the adjacent marsh. Then there'll be a sports court, a different type of court. We have entry courts, we have garden courts, rooftop courts, and we have some sport courts up in the top right-hand corner of the project, some pickleball courts. And it works out very nicely where they're close to the school courts that are just off site to the east across a narrow piece in the marsh in that area. And then throughout the remainder of the landscape, which is an area that I like to discuss a little later, is a variety of walkways and areas to sit and get out and spend time alone in a more private and natural area. But so the first landscape type is around the architecture. The second that I'd like to talk about is the dealing with the perimeters where we abut the residential neighborhood. And we're proposing a very robust and informal evergreen screen with some privacy fencing that would abut those residential properties. And it'll be very informal but robust to provide a nice buffer between the properties, a respectful buffer, and also creating some visual harmony. Lastly, is the concept of a coastal meadow that will wrap much of the western and southern and eastern boundaries of the project between the property lines and the buildings, is to create something less formal, something that blends more with the marsh. And so it'll be this coastal meadow. Incorporated within that will be various stormwater management features, bioretention basins or rain gardens, biofiltration swales, this perimeter walking path that takes you from some open space property and a park at the south end of Beaumont Street, which is just on the southwest corner, just southwest of the project site. And the path will make its way around the whole western side of the property, the southern side of the property, and then back out to the northeastern part where you have the entry to the property, the vehicular entry, and there'll be parking spaces there for the public to use. So we really, and that coastal meadow, we look at as a way to celebrate that expansive salt marsh. And so this will be a significant addition to that. Something that has changed, that was part of the approval the last time this project was before you, I think in 2018 and perhaps earlier 2015, was that the previous industrial use of the property included a substantial encroachment onto town land towards the marsh, into the marsh. They filled in the marsh decades and decades ago, paved it over, and it was used for decades by that previous owner. And your earlier approvals included removing that encroachment and restoring a natural environment there. That work has begun, that the pavement has been removed from there, from the town property, and it's been revegetated. That was before my involvement with the project, but that first step has been completed. So really a great step in this ecological stewardship that is a big part of this project. So the walkway is going to offer residents and the broader community opportunities to connect with the marsh, the vibrant wildlife and great vistas that are offered at the marsh. So in conclusion, I really find that this project will not only protect and respect our shared environment, but also will elevate living experience through thoughtful and sustainable design.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Seelan. So just to briefly wrap up and then open up for questions, I would point out, as Bill alluded to, in 2020, this property was approved by the commission for 148 units of independent living residential community. Unfortunately, that project did not move forward, but maybe that's fortunate in the sense that that was a good project. We think this is an even better one. What you've seen, and I won't get into the details now, but I'd want you to know that the most important substantive regulations in section 10.4C, because the property is zone design residential, we comply with the height, coverage, and density unit number calculation. So we may be seeking some tweaked technical amendments, but they will not involve the fundamentals of coverage, height, and number of units. It goes without saying, you're familiar with your POCD. You worked very hard on it, and I could go on, and I won't, about the number of things referenced in the POCD that are consistent with this proposal. Obviously, there's a commitment in the POCD to multi-family housing opportunities and expanding those for a broader market of people in the community. And there is also a very important reference in the POCD, I think, wherein it's indicated that this zone, the design residence district, should be used when possible as a transition from areas of commercial use to single-family residential use. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're taking an industrially, previously zoned and used industrially site at the foot of our center design business district, next to a lovely residential neighborhood, and coming up with a very unique and beautiful transitional multifamily community. And we think that fits directly into the POCD. So we open it up to you. We're excited to bring this back to you. Obviously, when we do, we're going to submit a detailed traffic analysis. We've already done that in principle. I can assure you it will confirm that we will not have any adverse impact with regard to traffic based upon the use that we propose and the nature of the people who will be using it. Overall, I think it's an exciting proposal. We hope you will agree, and we look forward to sharing with you in detail. But for now, I would very much welcome comments, thoughts, recommendations, anything that you can do to make this, for us and for the town, a better community. Thanks.
Thank you, Attorney Fallon. Commissioner Randolph, and then Levy.
Thank you for the presentation and the thoughtful design. It's refreshing to see a building with qualified professionals that's, has so much thought into it. We always do have to get the feedback from the community. And one of the questions that always comes up, and I think Mr. Fallon answered this, but Mr. Fallon, you said the coverage, height, number of units are as of right?
Well, they are consistent with your recently amended provisions in section 10.4 of the design residence district, yes.
And then, Mr. Seelan, Mr. Seelan?
Mr. Potter, but call me Sealand.
Okay, Seelan, the height to the center line of the peak of the roof, it's the site, I know the site very well. It drops down quite a bit. But if you could get that for me, but also what we've experienced is that the neighbors often would like to see a visualization of the scale of the building in relation to the adjacent property. So as you develop your design, I think that that's going to be a critical part of it, as well as any, Mr. Kenny's familiar with this as well, any tree removal, elimination of buffers, understanding what the effect and the impact on the neighbors is going to be in more detail. That I hope I hope we will see that in the future. That will help us understand it as well as the neighbors. I'm sorry, the number of units of acre. How many units per acre do we have here? Just
It's 6.67 acres and we have 140 units.
Okay.
So, and yes,
Okay, so was it 20 something units?
yep.
All right.
21.
21. Okay, and then the current conditions for stormwater, Mr. Kenny,
22.
Mr. Kenny, can you, right now, there's, as I know the site, it used to be the lumber yard, correct?
Right.
A long time ago. Is that site is currently, is it impervious?
It was, there, with some of the remediation work that has occurred, some of the impervious surfaces have been removed, but during its past use, it was nearly 100% impervious.
So is there any engineering on the site right now?
No, not to speak of.
So is it pretty much zero engineering on there? So what you're putting in is going to significantly improve the stormwater conditions that exist right now?
Exactly. The reduction in impervious and addition of naturally vegetated areas, and then adding all the stormwater management.
Right.
Actually, in my narrative, the site during its industrial use was 95% impervious, 6.3 of the 6.7 acres, with
Yeah.
no site engineering, water quality, stormwater management.
Yeah, it's there was no water management at all, and there's probably a little bit now. So also you mentioned gated access.
An idea that it's a security gate at the front here.
So
As
there's,
a amenity for the residents.
yeah, so there's a plan. One of my other things I do in my troublemaking time is work with the Bike and Ped Committee. And there's a plan that's called Hills to Harbor, and we started that with First Selectman Gerber. And the intent is to run it straight through this site.
There's a public access component.
Right.
That's just a vehicle control.
Yeah, so
That's a vehicle control the gate.
yeah, so I see there's a walking path. There's actually two on either side. So I would just request that you coordinate with the Bike and Ped Committee and their intent to have this, because this is a really important link in the Hills to Harbor. It goes all the way from Easton down to the water, and this would be at the middle of town is the toughest link. So if you could coordinate with that plan. And then what percentage of this is affordable?
12% under the current regs, which would be 17 units.
That was my last question. So thank you for that.
Just on the access too, one of the things that's very excited about this is there is public access, which will allow people to walk from the downtown center area all the way over to the residential area, the rugby park and whatnot. So it's not just public access, it's meaningful public access because it really links the residential neighborhood over there more directly to the downtown center, which is good for our merchants and everybody else.
Yeah. In terms of feedback, I must say, as with other projects I've seen from Byfield Architects and Associates, this is a first-class, very attractive proposal. the interest of full disclosure, the late Bruce Beinfield and I were classmates at Staples High School, and I'd see him at reunions, but I will decide this in the ultimate site plan strictly on the evidence. But based on the pre-application review, it's a beautiful project. Just a few questions in terms of, I was actually around in 2020. If memory serves, this is pretty close in terms of the nature of use of the property, in terms of the size of buildings and placement as the one we've previously approved, correct?
Yes, again, they were approved for 148 units. We're seeking 140, and the building locations and sizes are comparable.
Are there any environmental concerns left over from the McClinch and Fairfield lumber days that you're aware of?
Oh, it's all been cleaned up.
Yeah, when we started this project, I didn't take you through the whole history because back in 2000, I want to say in 10, we were before you for another multifamily project at this site. I forget, I think it had 60 units, I forget. But we were engaged with the DEEP with regard to all aspects of that. And the reason we've held off until this point is we wanted to see to that being completed, and it has been. So the site is ready for development.
Then one last question. Is there a height elevation difference between the southern end of the property and the level of the marsh, or?
That's roughly about 67 feet. And Jim will, next time we bring this, you'll have detailed grading plans. But the marsh is low, about 7 feet from the driveway that you enter on the other side.
Is there any marsh restoration that's going to be needed, or?
Not, so on the property itself, there's no wetlands now with the land back to the town. That work, there was a restoration involved with that, that's already completed. But we're doing upland meadow creation, what I'm calling that coastal meadow. So it'll be a natural, some expansive natural habitat between the buildings and the marsh.
Thank you.
Commissioner Braun. And then
Yes,
Capozzi.
you got a variance on the prior one. I'm trying to understand the procedural history of this.
Yeah,
Those
the
approved-
last, yeah, not to interrupt you, Commissioner Brown, but just to give you, I should have, they went first to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they got a number of variances for various aspects of the development. And then with the variances in place, they came to your commission for a special permit and site plan approval, and they received that as well.
So, and also, so this is going under the DRD regulation that we just passed about a year ago?
Correct. The property at the time that you approved the independent living residential community, you changed the zone, or maybe it was even before that, but the zone is designed residence. And yes, the application is proceeding under those regulations as amended.
I'm trying to remember, maybe you can educate me. I thought the DRD allowed up to 12 to 14 units per acre. Am I wrong on that?
No, the provision in section 10.4C of the regulations, yes, 10.4C allows a density of up to, excuse me, it's 10.4C1 of 40 units per acre.
Okay, so I remembered that wrong then. Okay, so I have a question about the
That's
title.
recently amended. That's recently amended,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I have a question about the tidal wetlands. Somewhere in your materials, it said there might be tidal wetlands in the area, abutting the property. Another area said there are tidal wetlands. Can Mr. Kenny perhaps explain how close any development activity is to any tidal wetland or the edge of the marsh?
Bill?
And also
Yes,
where the restored ones were. I couldn't really tell where you were pointing to from remote.
yes, there's tidal wetlands immediately off-site along the eastern and southern boundaries of the property. The distance varies. We could certainly provide that with the future documentation. Well, it's on the drawings. It could be scaled off the drawings, but the distance does vary.
Can we show the aerial or something that shows where the edge of the marsh is in relation to the building? It seemed very close to me, and I'm trying to figure out how big of a meadow are we talking about that's being put there?
Sorry.
So as a pre-app, we'll get, this is really for feedback to the applicant for aspects of the development proposal. This will get a full coastal site plan review as part of the official application submittal, but this is just a pre-app. So to get into specific details about the application proposal is really not the intention of a pre-app.
Okay, so could you show me the aerial, so I could just take a look at that again?
Pull up the landscape plan. There's the wetland boundary is shown in a red line off-site to the east and south.
Okay, I can't see that.
They're working on L1.
Okay,
Can't bring it up.
Not sure what number it is in the presentation. It's near the end. Oh, it's 12.
Can Mr. Kenny, while you're pulling it up, just tell us the distance of any development activity from the edge of the tidal wetland?
It'll take me a second.
Sure.
But yeah, you have to understand that we're working within the footprint of the previous industrial development. So we will be working in some areas within 10, 20 feet of the tidal wetland because that's where the footprint of that pavement was previously. So to remove that and restore these areas to this natural meadow habitat that we're proposing, we will be working in close proximity to the tidal wetlands. And it will certainly be done in such a way that there won't be any adverse impact.
What's the horizontal distance from the building or any sidewalks or infrastructure to the tidal wetland?
Just need a second here.
While he is looking that up, I would say that as he gives you that answer, it's certainly no closer than the project that was approved in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The building in many places is a good 50 feet away from the wetland. The eastern building is roughly 50 feet away from the wetland. And the southern building is over 100 feet away from the tidal wetland.
Building A is 100 feet from the tidal wetland?
100 feet or more, correct.
Okay, so this isn't really an aerial, it's hard to tell. So my concern that I always have is that tidal wetlands need landward area to migrate to as sea level rises, or they get eliminated and drowned in the water. So that would be a concern I would have going forward if it's too close to the tidal wetlands. And can you point on here where is the town restoration portion of the tidal wetlands, and why is there only a blue line on one side? Is the bottom part not facing the water? Just the eastern part is facing. I only see a blue line on the eastern part of the site. Is the bottom part where other residences are, or?
The blue line that you see on the eastern is actually Pine Creek. So that's just a creek within the marsh. And then if you look closely, there's red lines between that blue line and the building. The red lines are the wetland boundary.
Okay,
And
so
bottom,
you're saying, yeah, go on, sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
the bottom of the page, the wetland in some places is so far south of the building that it's not shown because it's so far south of the building.
And what's between the wetland? Yeah, sorry, go on.
You're concerned about marsh migration. This is a very interesting area, and with the help of Tom Stanky, who was here for many years, the restoration work he did on this marsh over decades has set up a system where this whole marsh complex is protected from sea level rise, from being flooded by sea level rise. So this marsh system is in a very controlled hydraulic situation because of the work that Tom did with his tide gates. So this marsh won't be flooded and drowned and killed from sea level rise. it'll be
That's very
protected.
good to know. Yeah, that's
Yes.
very good to know. And the red lines are the tidal wetland boundary. And between the red line and the nearest construction activity, you're saying is like 100 feet or 50 feet. So that's good to know. And then I had one other question just about traffic. I remember there was an issue years ago on one of the prior applications about the neighbors not wanting access and egress to the other road, not Thorpe Street. It's either Bungalow or
Mhm.
Granville. Is there access and egress there? Like, I think in one of the prior ones, they only allowed emergency access. Is there gonna be access for regular traffic on whatever that road is? It's either Bungalow or Granville, or maybe Beaumont.
No, our plan is to maintain that as has been in the past applications for emergency only. I think that was the case with the first iteration, and then I think that was certainly the case with regard to the independent living, and yes, so we're not gonna open that up for direct traffic in and out of the
Okay.
neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Posey and then Monahan.
Hi there. I just knowing Mr. Cinto's work over many years, I think this is the quality of his designs and construction and maintenance of his properties is exemplary, and it seems like this is no exception. And it seems right-sized for the area. It's a marked improvement from what is there what isn't there currently. But my question is regarding the affordable units. What was the percentage again?
It's 12%, Commissioner, so it translates to 17 units.
Okay, and what controls are in place or will be in place to make sure that those 17-ish units remain affordable? And is there a difference in access to amenities from the affordable units from others?
No, first of all, a restrictive covenant in accordance with the statute will have to be placed on the land records after being reviewed by the TPC staff and the town attorney, Mr. Barnhart, and that will deed restrict the 17 units for a period of 40 years at affordable rates as set up by the state. We also are going to have to submit and make part of that an affordable unit plan. So we'll designate specifically what units to make sure there's a proper mix between the 1 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms and what have you. That will be submitted as well. And beyond that, you had a third question. I'm sorry if I missed that, but there will be, strictly the other thing is we're going to have to submit as part of our application to you an affordability plan, which will document and lay out in great detail how we're going to manage the affordable units, how we're going to screen applicants, how on a yearly basis they're going to have to show that they continue to have standards for affordability, et cetera. So it'll be tightly managed, thanks to Mr. Barnhart and Ms. Harrigan.
Thank you for that. My last question was, is there a difference in access to amenities between affordable units and non-affordable units?
No, statutorily, the affordable units have to be of comparable style. So you can't segregate the affordable units in one section. They have to be dispersed throughout the entire development, and they have to have the same amenities as the market rate units.
Oh, all great stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Monahan.
Just had a question of the walking path that will go from one side to the other. So it'll go all the way around the complex?
And it'll extend from Granville, in the top left, top
Yep.
west, down to the southern end of Beaumont and the town park. And then along the southern boundary, all the way up to the entrance at Thorpe Street.
And will be an opening on Granville for the residents there to be able to walk through as well? Okay,
Yes.
and then what is the path constructed of?
Currently, we're proposing a stone dust surface.
So there won't be any bike riding through there?
I
It'll be
don't
more
believe that
walking.
is the intent, that it's walking.
Additional Commissioner Delgado comments? Commissioner Siebert, anything? I think my fellow commissioners have covered everything. Beautifully designed project, so appreciate the thought that went into this. Looking forward to seeing the full application proposal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time and attention. We're excited to bring this back to you with a fully produced presentation. Thank you.
Okay, the next two items are applications to recommend to public hearing. We're still waiting some additional information from those applicants, so I'm going to ask for a motion to postpone items 3A and 3B. Date TBD.
Actually, we could just move those. I'll just move them to the next agenda. I don't think you have to vote on that.
Okay. Next is old business. The first two applications, 3232 Post Road and 3400 Post Road. I'm also going to ask for a motion to postpone those until February 10th. We'll have a motion to that effect. Commissioner Levy.
Postpone 32 Post Road into the.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Braun seconds. Any questions, comments?
Chairman, is it appropriate to ask why? I'm sorry, I represent 3400 Post Road.
Well, we're running a little behind schedule and we have time within our statutory calendar and we have other people here for the public hearing.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. See you in February. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion to postpone to February 10th, please raise your hand or say aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. We'll see.
Yes.
All right, we'll move to our public hearings. The first is 264 Fairchild Avenue, a special exception and coastal site plan application of Summit Holding LLC for an addition to an existing auto repair facility in a designed commercial district. Attorney Fallon, are you speaking now? Because you're on mute.
Yes, I'm unmuted now. Thank you. So again, good evening for the record. My name is John Fallon. I'm here representing the applicant, Summit Holding LLC. We're seeking special permit and site plan approval in order to construct a small one-story addition to the existing building at 264 Fairchild Avenue. It will be utilized, as I will elaborate on, for the limited purpose of storage. The property is located in the design commercial district. Summit Auto Repair has been at this location for 31 years. It's owned by and operated by Brian Judd and Jeff Engel. I believe they're here tonight.
Attorney Fallon, can you just hang on for one moment, please? Did we lose the recording or is that just a?
I think it's just.
No, everything's recording.
Okay. Attorney Fallon, we cannot hear you. So we cannot see you for the moment. So.
Oh, well, let me see if that's my fault.
No, it's not.
No, I see him on my Zoom, so
That's-
I can see him too.
And
We're
I,
having an issue in the room, so if you need to refer to any visuals, just hang on, but otherwise, keep talking.
yeah, okay. So as I said, Summit Auto has been located at 264 Fairchild Avenue for 31 years. It's owned and operated by Brian Judd and Jeff Engel. I believe they're here tonight. They can wave to you and let you know they're here on behalf of their application. And they have been known in the community for those 3 decades for providing quality auto repair service to their customers. Pat Rose is here tonight. You can see him sitting at the table. He's going to briefly walk you through the plan. It's simple. It's a one-story addition to the existing structure that will comprise 2,010 square feet. The purpose of the additional space is to provide a secure interior location for limited storage regarding a collection of antique cars and motorcycles owned by Jeff and Brian. These vehicles will be easily movable in the unlikely event of a potential flooding situation, and the additional space will be used solely for purposes of such limited storage and will not involve any expansion of the business of Summit Auto Repair. We did go to the ZBA in September of 2025. We received a variance of section 12.7.6.1 to reduce the street line setback facing Dresden Street to 10.1 feet in order to accommodate the proposed addition. In so doing, the board found legal hardship based upon the fact that the property is bounded on 3 sides, not 2, but 3, by public streets, and therefore subject to the street line setback on each of those 3 boundaries. The board also found that the building is already non-conforming to the street setback on Fairchild Avenue and Carthage Street. So before I summarize, I would like to have Pat just briefly overview for you the plans. Pat?
Jonathan, do you have, can you put the site plan up? Pat Rose from Rose Tizo and Company, 2 Avenue in Fairfield, architect for the project. The project, very simply, site plan up on the screen. We have a 30-foot by 67-foot addition going on the end of the building on Dresden. That was, we already had the ZBA approval for the 10-foot setback. That allowed us to put this addition where it is. The addition is subject to CAM. We've gone back and forth with CAM a couple times and Emmeline, and I think we've worked out all of the kinks as to what we need to do with the building. We are going to be wet flood proofing the building. Problem with this site is that flood elevation is AE 15.6 and the elevation of the floor in the building is about 10.1. So it has a significant flood impact, should that happen. And that's why we've decided to go with wet flood proofings. We have flood vents in the bottom of the building, which you'll see in the elevations and plans. Go past that. That's just see the floor plan there for the building. Go back one, thanks. Shows those little white squares in the wall that are all flood vents required for being able to let the water in and let the water out should there be a flood. And we've also going to be treating the masonry up about 6 feet in order for, if we not, hopefully not damage the walls should that happen. So waterproofing the masonry up about 6 feet. Very simple building, masonry with garage door, 2 doors out and some windows. There was a letter from the DEP talking about the wet flood proofing and the elevation of the 15.6. One of the things that they've suggested is that any electrical meters that are required for the project be above that 15.6, which we would adhere to. The permit process. So what we've done is complied with the wet flood proofing so that we can use this for limited storage. Everything can be moved. Building is less than 30 feet high. It meets everything else meets the zoning regulations in the DR and DCD. So we believe we meet all of the regulations associated. The building itself is only 18 feet tall. And we have shown in our elevation that the electric is above the 15.6. So I think we've addressed all the items that have come up through the review from the DEP and the town staff. Any questions, be happy to answer them.
Questions from Commissioner Randolph and then Braun.
I'm sitting just looking at the Google walkthrough on it, and so there's a wetland in the back.
Correct, the river's in the back.
And I'm looking at the pictures, and it looks like you got a lot of barrels back there. What's in the barrels?
Right now, it's that we just have antifreeze, like storage for antifreeze and stuff. We're gonna be cleaning all that up and getting rid of it.
Are there specific requirements for storing potential toxins, especially since it's adjacent to a wetland? And you're just opening a can of worms by coming to us. So
Yeah. I mean, we have companies that pick it up, and it's all, safety clean and whatnot, and it's all, by law that things are picked up
I'm
and.
just looking how it's stored in the ground. Right. Ground level. I just ask that be, since you're here and I'm looking at the pictures of it. I'm supposed to be doing something for you here to pass this, but can I just ask that be evaluated? Because I know Commissioner Braun is particularly vigilant about the wetlands, and I see barrels on the ground next to a wetland. It just,
Right, I mean, they're all empty. They're just from when we get delivered and they're gonna be getting picked up probably within the next couple.
they're empty.
Yeah, right now they're all empty.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just ask that you make sure you comply with,
Yep, those will all be gone.
because they rust as flood,
Right.
you know, it could be
We
bad.
actually did away with that. Now we have bigger tank storage for inside the shop, so we don't use that anymore. So that, all that is, all those will be gone.
Thanks.
Commissioner Braun?
Yes, I'm going through the whole packet that's online. I don't see the DEP letter. There is a document called CAM, which.
No, it's there, Commissioner, not to interrupt you, but it's there.
Oh, it is?
It's dated January 21st, 2026. And it's the
Did you-
letter from the DEP. It's on DEP letterhead, bright blue. And
There's one item that can't be opened because it's in the old version of doc. I can't open it, and it also says no preview, but if you could just provide that to us some other way, I'd like to see it.
Sure.
That can be done after we close the hearing,
Yeah, just,
But
so I will,
The DP had no problem with this, you're
no,
saying?
I wasn't gonna, but I'll mention it since you get.
Okay,
In their letter, they basically say, and this is the only salient things, they say, quote, flood vents and waterproofing on exterior walls and installation of subsurface stormwater management galleries has been provided. Bathroom and office, they recommended passively acting flood vents. And we have no problem with that. I think it may have already been shown. And as Pat alluded to, they suggested that the elevation of the electric meter be above a certain elevation, which I think the plans show that it is. So they had no negative comments, and I believe their substantive recommendations we've complied with, and if we certainly would anyway.
and they had no concern over the resource that's right off-site, the Rooster River?
They did not. Their letter
Okay, and
brief, yep.
one other question, I know that, and this is for staff here. Usually when you build in a area like this, you have to add more flood storage elsewhere, and this is a little over my head, but could someone explain how that works here, or if that's necessary? You're adding impervious surface. Do we have to add more flood storage somewhere else to accommodate for that?
You have two options. You
Yep.
have dry flood proofing, where you have to have compensatory storage
Okay,
for the area of the building. And if you think about that, it's a significant amount of storage because it's 5 feet high by 30 feet by 67 feet. It's not practicable. So
okay,
the other option is wet storage, wet flood proofing, where we allow the water to come into the building and then flow out of the building.
so that's what you're having here. Okay,
Correct. That's why the
Thank
flood
you.
vents are shown.
okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, is anyone else speaking? That's it for now. Okay, so that'll close the initial presentation. If there is anyone joining remote who wishes to be heard, please sign in and chat and indicate that you'd like to speak or raise your digital hand. We'll go to public comment. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to be heard on this item? Anyone in online, Mr. Mollison?
No, there is not.
Okay, one last call. Anyone who wishes to be heard on this item, please raise your hand or indicate in chat that you wish to be heard. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on this item, public comments on this item. Anything else to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. It's a
One moment,
straightforward.
Attorney Fallon, hang on 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was, sorry. Mr. Alarm, you're not for this application.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything further, Attorney Fallon?
No, just thank you for your time. It's a straightforward application, and we have worked, I appreciate the staff's efforts as we've worked with them to ensure FEMA compliance, and I appreciate the DEP comments. And we thank you again for your patience and time.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing on this item. We'll go to our last item. Again, if anyone does wish to be heard, please remember to sign in and chat. The last item is 161 Sherman Street and 616 and 26 Sherman Court. Special permit and coastal site plan application of Sound Development Group LLC. Construct 7 residential dwelling units within 2 proposed townhouse buildings in a neighborhood design business district zone.
John, I'm going to share. Chairman, members of the commission, Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzi LLC. Office is located at 10 Sasko Hill Road in Fairfield. Happy to be here on behalf of the applicant, certainly being shoveling. And so we are here tonight for a special permit and CAM review for the properties known as 161 Sherman Street and then 616 and 26 Sherman Court to construct 7 residential dwelling units within 2 proposed townhouse buildings on the site. I will try to share. And
I gave you co-host these.
let's see, it's coming up. Okay. Turn this down. So you can see a rendering, again, 2 townhouse buildings. You can see them there. I'm going to quickly go over to the zoning map. So these properties are you see that? Okay. So these properties are located at the intersection Sherman Street, Sherman Court. 2 kind of odd streets in that there's a west-east branch of Sherman Street that then goes down the west side of our property. So there's a north-south branch of Sherman Street. And then Sherman Court is on the east side of our property and actually then goes, once it reaches the bottom of that block, heads, and there's an east-west branch of Sherman Court. So a little bit odd, but ours is there. You can see I highlighted it in blue. It's 4 properties. They are all within the CDD. They each are 5,000 square feet. So in total, the site is 20,000 square feet. And what you can see there, just to point out before I change the slide too, is you can see the brown that's lying below us is kind of that strip there is the DRD. There's a number of condo developments, similar style developments to what we have in the area. I'll point those out to you in the next aerial. Let's see. So on this is a little more clear on this TV, but you can see again, those are the properties highlighted in blue. Between the sites, there's a number of curb cuts. There's on the western end, there's a curb cut that is in between the existing office building that's there in that northwest corner and the office building below it. There's another curb cut that's along the east-west branch of Sherman Street across from the medical office building. And then there's 2 curb cuts on the eastern side of our property, again, in between the office buildings that are there in that row. The current building, so there's 161 Sherman Street, which contains a mixed-use building as an office on the first floor and an apartment on top. And then there's 616 and 26 Sherman Street, which have various office uses within what were, residential buildings. I'm sure you're probably familiar with this site and those buildings. And what we're looking to do is demolish those buildings, have one site that's going to hold these 2 townhome units. While we're on this aerial, one thing I'll point out too is you can see where I indicated in stars a number of similar. Oh yeah, somebody's got a laser pointer. Look at that. So those are similar developments. There's one directly to the west of us. That's a townhouse style condominium project. There's another one where you go down around the corner, and again, that's still Sherman Court. Another similar development right there. Yeah, thank you. And then you might remember, this is within the past 5 years, there was development on Oldfield Road, right off of Reef. That's right behind the firehouse. Right behind the firehouse, exactly. Again, a similar type development. And that's what we're looking to do with this project. I'm gonna switch over to a site plan that shows the existing conditions. Second. Okay. So this actually shows 6 properties, but again, it's the property in the top left, that's part of this, that's 161 Sherman Street, and then the 3 properties on Sherman Court. You could see those properties share parking with each other. They, despite that, are pre-existing non-conforming with regards to parking. They're actually non-conforming by 15 spaces. And this application would completely eliminate the parking non-conformity that exists between these sites. They all add to it in total. It adds up to over 15 spaces being deficient in parking. We are going to completely eliminate that parking. I mean, that parking non-conformity. We're also going to, and you're going to see this in our site plans, if you know those sites, there's not much in the way of landscaping. And so we have a robust landscaping plan. David Varespi is going to walk you through it in a bit to really enhance the landscaping on the site and the streetscape in particular. Before I turn it over to our engineer on this project, I just want to show you the general layout on our site plan. Again, what you can see here is a proposed townhouse building containing 3 units, and then another townhouse building containing 4 units. Our architect, Phil Cerrone, is going to go through those plans with you, but these are 3-bedroom units. They each have 2-car parking, and then what you can see here in the interior of the site is we have an additional 4 spaces, which give us a total of 18 spaces, and which makes it conforming to your parking regulations. We also have some bike parking down here on the southern end. And another thing you might notice here is that we're actually eliminating a curb cut along this section of Sherman Court, bringing it down to 1. So there's access here on the southern side of the site, in the middle of the site, and then to access the garages that are in this left building. So with that, to walk you through the site plans, I'm gonna transfer it over to Jason. If you can run through the site plans, please.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Jason Montagno with Solely Engineering. I'm a professional engineer. Our office is located at 501 Main Street, Monroe. I'll discuss all the civil drawings, except Chris stole my thunder. He did a great job presenting the site plan, so I'll just piggyback off of that a little bit more. So just to reiterate, so we do have a full access movement driveway coming off of Sherman Street. That'll provide access to the garages for the 4-unit townhouse here, as well as the garage for the right side of the 3-unit townhouse building. Additionally, we'll have driveways coming off of Sherman Street to enter the middle unit, as well as Sherman Street on the left side to enter the western unit. We're proposing the bike racks in conformance with the town's regulations. And we're proposing new sidewalks that are going to be bordering the property line along Sherman Court and Sherman Street. This is great. Okay, so grading. So for stormwater measurements, the site as it exists today doesn't have any stormwater treatment measures. The stormwater will flow to either dry wells located in the parking lot, or it'll discharge directly to catch basins before entering the town's municipal stormwater system. Therefore, there's no treatment. The water will just enter it without providing any reduction to sediment or pollutant loads. So within this new design we're proposing, the stormwater will be collecting from the roofs on both buildings, which will be routing to our underground system. Additionally, we're proposing a catch basin located in the parking lot over here, and a trench drain to capture water before it would get in front of the parking garage here for this unit. So as that stormwater is collected, It'll be routed to a water quality unit, which will help reduce the pollutant loads and floatables and oils before entering our underground system located in between the buildings. So this underground system will allow the stormwater to collect and infiltrate through the bottom to promote groundwater recharge. Once the stormwater builds up, it will then exit through some piping through our outlet control structure located at the to the left of the northwest corner of the 4-unit building, which will then tie into the municipal system in the roadway. With that, we are reducing all of the stormwater, the storm events, the 2, 5, 10, 25, 50, and 100-year stormwater events. We're reducing all those flows to it, as well as providing necessary treatment with the stormwater quality manual. So we are compliant with all of those regulations. You want to go to soil erosion? Great. So for our soil erosion measures, we implemented a two phases. So the first phase would be to establish the perimeter controls, which includes silt fence along our limited disturbance, or essentially the property line with this. So once we have our perimeter controls, we're also proposing to install inlet protection on the catch basins located within the roadway. And after that, that's when the demolition of the buildings and the associated infrastructure for those buildings could then commence. We're also proposing construction entrance for construction traffic to enter from Sherman Street in this gray hatched area. This is the construction entrance. This will be with large crushed stone to help loosen up any sediment on the tires before entering into Sherman Street. That should be it for this one, Chris. Now in the second phase, this is more of a maintenance item for the soil erosion measures. So we're having the contractor still maintain the perimeter erosion measures, which are silt sack and hay bales along the exterior property line, as well as along the roadway. Again, they'll also be maintaining this construction entrance coming from Sherman Street. And proposing on this phase, they'll then just have to add inlet protection on the new stormwater infrastructure that's being constructed during this portion of the project. The site is relatively flat, so there shouldn't be a high probability at all of soil migrating off of the site. This will all be collected from the perimeter erosion control measures, as well as the silt sack. So there should not be any issues for that.
Digital lighting.
As the utility plan.
I miss utility, sorry.
Perfect. So yeah, the utility plan we have proposed, each townhouse will have its own separate connection for domestic water, for gas and electrical service. All the utilities will be coordinated with their respective utility providers. A majority for the 4-unit building, majority of the utilities will be connecting on the eastern facade. This bottom unit will have some connections for gas as well as water along the southern facade. There should be some screening as well to kind of hide these, and that'll be more discussed during our landscape plan. Additionally, it may be hard to see with all the line work here, but a majority of the utilities should be hidden to the rear of this building to send the gas lines as well as electrical, and the telecom will be in the rear, and then the water should be entering from the front. But again, these will be coordinated with the utility providers. One item I did want to highlight is that we did receive WPCA approval last week. There was no issues or no comments regarding this, so everything's all set from a sewer perspective.
Lighting.
All right, and then onto the lighting plan. So this plan is proposing site lighting, has 3 pole-mounted fixtures along the main drive areas. I'm just going to highlight with the pointer. This is all in the rear parking lot, as well as 1 pole fixture that will provide illumination to this existing entranceway. So all of these will be dark sky LED, dark sky compliant and LED fixtures. And that will also be incorporated into the wall sconces and the building lighting around all of the units. So these, excuse me, this lighting design was developed to provide safe and functional illumination levels while also minimizing off-site glare and light spillover onto adjacent parcels. Should wrap it up here. Traffic.
We submitted a traffic memorandum prepared by Solely Engineering. And I think as expected, it found that this would create extremely minimal amounts of traffic. In the AM peak hour, there was a total of 3 trips. In the PM peak hour, it was 4 trips. And on the Saturday peak hour, it was only 3 trips. And so with that, as you might expect, with that many low trips, it found that there would be no adverse impact on the surrounding roadways, but we submitted that in for the record. Chair, do you want me to just go through all the experts and then have questions, or do you want to do questions by expert?
Yeah, if there's something pressing that someone needs to jump in on, that's fine, but otherwise, let's try to get through.
Keep going, sure. With that, I'll turn it over to David Foresby, who prepared our plans.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Foresby. I'm a registered landscape architect in Connecticut and New York with Rock Spring Design Group, located in Trumbull, Connecticut. We looked at the planting for this site. The existing site has no street trees. There are a few hedges and spotty areas of grass, more pavement and buildings than plantings. So all the plantings here are a bonus, well above what is existing on the site now. We look to the surrounding areas and the downtown Fairfield area to pick up on different varieties that are in that area, to pick up on the vernacular right behind the main Route 1 there. And we did plant selections based on varieties that would do well in an urban environment. So we're looking for street trees that will perform well in the urban area, shrubs will perform well in the urban area. We're also looking for shrubs that would accentuate the buildings and provide an upscale appearance commensurate with the design of the architecture and the surrounding environment. What we have is some larger street trees along the perimeter of the property, which would be a London plane tree, variety selected for resistance to anthracnose and performance in tight urban environments. We have a few of the upright sweet gum trees. They're more of a columnar form. There are actually some on the property right across the street up here. And then in between, we have it accentuated with some small star magnolias. So we're getting a variety of bloom. We're getting a variety of different tree sizes. In the back, we've got honey locust trees, which will provide filtered shade over the parking lot. They're going to be a broader canopy where they can spread here. They also do very well in parking lot situations where there's not as much soil to survive and there's a heat island effect. Separating the properties through here, we have evergreen hedges, which will provide some separations between this parking over here and our site. And then along the front of the buildings, we chose a mixture of evergreen shrubs and evergreen hedging, and then some ornamental flowering shrubs. In the areas where we have limited area, we have a low taxus hedge across the front of the building with vinca and planted with daffodils. And then as we have more area, we have the same vinca and daffodils with the hedge backed up behind here with some a dwarf variety of a rhododendron. And in areas where we have even more space across here, we've added in a row of dwarf hydrangea. The shrub bed here in front of, along the parking lot, we have some dwarf hydrangeas, a variety called Tidbit. And then we also have some Itea virginica, which is Virginia sweet spire. It's a little bit more of a native plant. And this area is going to be subject to some snow loading. It's a multi-stem plant. It bounces back really quick, gets a summer flower and a nice green glossy leaf and really, really pretty fall foliage. We have 2 evergreen trees here on the end of the building to help screen some of the bicycle parking area and some of the utilities. We also have some rhododendrons. And all in all, it's a good balance mixture of evergreen shrubs, or hedges to accentuate the building and survive well in this urban environment. Any questions?
How many folks do you have? Phil's gonna go to just do architecture.
Okay.
Good.
I just wanted to ask if there, do they have yards? Are there backyards or I see some, is that just a driveway straight down?
It's a driveway.
It's a driveway.
Yeah.
But there is space and that Phil's gonna end up.
These are the, for the record, Phillips from Architect, my office is in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm gonna actually use this screen because I don't want to keep turning around and bending my head up. So these are the garages on this side here. So there's no yards here, but there is some lawn space on the street side over here. So to just kind of walk you through the project, as Chris said, the one building is a 3-unit building. If we, why don't we just go to the plans? Right. So the way it is, right, these are the 3 streets. This is Sherman Street. Sherman Street over here, and the project across the street, which we did years ago, is very similar to this. It's got garages that are not on the street side, but on the back side, very similar to this. And then a living level and a bedroom level above it. So these 4 units are identical. They have a garage on the first floor with a staircase that goes down to a small basement, mostly for utilities and storage. And then a space on the first floor also with a bathroom that can be used as a home office. It can be used as an extra bedroom. It could be used as a study. It's kind of a multi-purpose room. These 4 units are identical to each other. We staggered them just to break up the facade. These 3 units over here, they're also 3-bedroom units with garages on the first floor, little bedroom or office space on the next level, and then bedrooms on the top floor. If you want, we could just quickly go through the plans. Right, so again, as I said, on the second floor, which is the main living level, right? It's a kitchen. The laundries are on that floor currently, a half bathroom, dining and living space. And then that's basic, these are identical to each other. These 3 are slightly different, but it's the same concept, right? All of the units have elevators. The elevators go from the first floor to the second floor to the roof deck. So all of these units have roof decks. They have private roof decks with private access to the roof decks and elevators that take them up to the roofs, which is similar to several other projects on the street that we've done. Actually, we've done 2 other projects on this street that have apartments with roof decks on them. And the views you get from here are really amazing because you can see pretty much over everything. We want to go to the elevations with the renderings for sure. We have some. Probably best. So here's the roof decks, as you can, yeah, if you want. So you can see the roof decks. Everybody's got an elevator that goes up there, the staircase. Then you get a nice roof deck here, and then we screened off where there's small mechanical spaces that are going to be up there for basically their air conditioning condensing units. Everybody's got their own utilities, their own services, et cetera. Probably if we go to the renderings, it's the best thing because we handed out the renderings, which are in front of you. I mean, the architecture of the project and the scale of the project, I think, is very much in keeping with the neighborhood. Directly across the street's a 3-story building. Diagonally across the street's a 5-story building. On the street is mostly 2- and 3-story buildings. This is right at the edge of the neighborhood, which is mostly 2.5-story buildings. As I said, across the street on Sherman Street is a building that's probably almost exact same height as this because it's got the garage and then the 2 living levels above it. Chris is having a little.
I'm putting the rendering up right now.
So on the outside of the building, as you can see from there, all right, so it's some sort of clapboard siding. It's going to be a composite material, not wood, with a composite type of trim. We do have some stone on the first floor here. This one here has some garage doors you can see that are going to be probably glass garage doors. And the way this is it's a mansard roof on the front. So these are asphalt shingle roofs, and then they slope up, and it's got about a 4 or 5 foot wall that'll shield the tenants that are on, or the owners, whatever it is, on the roofs. These are the elevators and stairs that project above the roof over there. We're well below what the allowable height is in the zone, because it's a 5-story zone. We're at 3 stories here. So again, I think we're very much in keeping in character with the neighborhood. If you want.
There's another view. Yeah, there's this view.
Corner. So here's the other one from the corner. So you can see this is the entrance divides the buildings where that's basically the driveway that feeds all of these. So on the street here, the garages are on the backside, and then we do have doors that enter off of the street here. And then these units also, the garages are on the two ends over there. That's a quick summary of the project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Monahan?
Is all on-street parking is allowed there, correct?
It is.
Yes.
So are you accounting for that for additional overflow for guest parking?
We're conforming to the regulations on site, but it is there, in case somebody wanted to use
Yes,
it.
everybody has a two-car garage to themselves, and then there is also some other parking for four spaces.
4 spaces.
On the site also.
And that's behind, is that the property?
Behind the, it's right, let me go back to the site plan.
That was a minute.
Yeah.
So there's on-site parking here.
Yeah, 4
And then the
spaces.
garages are there and at the two ends over there. There is on-street parking on all of those streets around this whole corner. It's not uncommon that people park there. I mean, Attorney Fallon's office is right down the street. When I go to his office, I park in front of it on the street, as do most people. And Dr. Scully's dental office is down the street, park in front of his office. So people commonly park along the street here. So.
Other questions? Commissioner Randolph?
This building is in scale with the neighborhood. It's in keeping with the surrounding buildings, which I appreciate. Just a couple of, small questions. You didn't show any turning radiuses going back into the court. So could you don't have to do it now, but we need to see that to make sure that there's proper emergency vehicle access to the back area.
There is, and we did go through code enforcement with fire and building and everybody else, and
So that's been
everybody
covered.
was
That's been covered.
satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Your light trespass drawing, it looked like there were some isotopes on there that's went into there. I don't know what the
We think that was, so it was probably down, I didn't find there now.
it was in the
Yes.
southern end.
It was
Yeah.
just down here, and as Jason might have mentioned, there's a driveway here that's actually, it's a common driveway, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so we needed to make sure that we have some light here for safety reasons.
It looked like it was half a foot candle, but
Yeah, it's very low.
we need to make sure that that's not, that you're, what's the word? Is it 0? Or is it less than 1.5 foot candles? What's the?
It's less than 1.
I think it's less than 1.
Okay,
We
so,
have the option, it lights up the driveway nice. We do have the option that we could pull back that light closer to the building if need be, to pull that closer, but it's lighting up the
That would be
driveway.
a good thing. And thanks for using dark sky. Let's see, yeah, the landscaping, very thoughtful. The other, you referred to the complex across the street, which you said, did you guys do that? It was the same?
Not me, I don't know.
I did across the street.
Okay.
I did across both streets and down the street,
Yeah, so it's
and the one on Oldfield.
pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
But the landscaping, it looks like the trees were what you guys call the lawn between the sidewalk. Well, they labeled it the lawn between the sidewalk and the street. You know, the grass median, you had across the street, the trees are in the grass median. Did you talk to the tree warden? Did he tell you not to put them there?
I typically avoid putting them there just because it becomes a snow removal issue. Putting them back behind the sidewalk gives the trees more room to space for root development, and it's just a better solution.
Yeah, it makes for a nicer pedestrian experience when the trees are between the street and the side, but when the trees are between the street and the sidewalk though, which is.
You can certainly pull them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk to the tree warden.
Yeah, if you talk to the tree warden, because I've been getting some feedback on, it blocks the sight lines, which whenever anybody says that, I just want to like throw my coffee at them, but if, yeah, you could look at that, because if you look across the street, the trees are in the lawn, the grass buffer between the sidewalk, so just to make it match, and it looks, if you look at the street view, it's nice, because those trees are mature. I think that's it. So turning radius, light trespass, and the trees. But it's, it's a project's at a nice scale. The architecture is nice. It seems to match. I hope you use some nice materials, not a lot of this synthetic boards are starting to, so they're oil heading. They're not aging very well. So I hope you'll consider that. And this is going to be condo? Yes. Yeah. So use some good materials.
We will.
Commissioner Monahan.
I have one last question. So I know there's a few developments like this, as you've alluded to. And they're very popular and people like them. I'm happy that you added the elevator because that was some feedback on some of the older units that they didn't have the elevators and that they go, up to the bedrooms. The rooms on the first floor that can double as a home office, are they designed in such a way that if someone wanted to sublet them, is that permitted according to our zoning code? Because I will say that, we are not displacing, but we're losing several, commercial, pseudo-commercial buildings. I mean, is what 8 businesses used to run out of those? I would just say that, it could be an opportunity for someone to run a small accounting firm or a law office or out of those, if designed properly.
So if I could just speak to the zoning regulations, right now, our home occupation regulations do not actually allow for client visitation, with the exception of music teachers. So, again, like when we talk about zoning regulation revisions, if you as the commission felt that, maybe that's an antiquated regulation, maybe we should allow for single shingle practitioners like attorney, like a single practitioner attorney or a therapist,
The
right?
recommendations in the POCD, right?
It is.
Right, whatever that might be, that could be something that the commission could bring up as a potential zoning regulation revision. But right now, home occupations are significantly limited. That being said, if somebody wants to set that up as their quote unquote home office to kind of have a level that's away from the rest of their operation of their house, they could do that. But this came up during code review, to be honest, and I asked the question as well, because they did get a variance to allow this to be a 100% residential development. And in order to make that a ground floor that has client visitation, they have to meet different building codes.
Right, and actually when I was gonna get in my discussion of the POCD, I was gonna mention that this topic's discussed. It talks about how in 2018, there's 9% of Fairfield workers were working from home. That's doubled by 2021 to 18%. And there's actually a policy in there to explore a home professional business office overlay that would permit owner occupied housing to include appointment-based professional businesses such as a lawyer, which I think this would be perfect for. Commissioner, you probably know this, like even things like residential closings, pre-COVID, we used to have a lot more people come into the office for our law office, and they would come for signings. Now it's very limited. Usually it's just, your client who's coming in. And so I think somebody could easily set up in these home offices, and one thing you might notice on the floor plan too, we're keeping doors out to the street. So it's not like we're hiding internally in the street. We still have that outlet out into the street to make it, I think, a viable home office, and I'm sure there's people, trust me, yesterday I would have loved to have had a home office on a different floor than where my kids were. So I think this amenity here on the first floor is gonna be very attractive.
Yeah, it could potentially be a home office, but let's be clear, as Emmeline said, they're not designed as commercial spaces right now. So they don't meet the commercial codes.
Is there a bathroom on that floor?
There is.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Braun, stick your hand up.
I see in the the coastal site plan review, this is not near any natural resources, I believe.
Yeah, and I hadn't gotten to that, but yeah, regarding coastal site plan review, we have all the proper soil and erosion sediment control measures. There's no potential adverse impacts to coastal resources. There's really nothing close to it. There's no opportunity for water dependent uses, obviously. And then I'll just note there was a letter from DEEP that said really that they had no issues with the application and that it was consistent with the Coastal Management Act.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, I'll just state, and I'll be brief, unless there's another question. Just with regards to we satisfy all the standards with regards to special permanent site plan review. We're actually well under coverage and FAR, and this use is permitted.
in the zone. We've received the necessary variances for it to occupy 100% of the building. Regarding the POCD, it spoke of transitional zones for multifamily housing and to diversify housing types. We've done that here. There's obviously apartment buildings that are around this area, and there's these style of condos. But in our immediate area, there's a concentration of these townhome condos. So I think we fit right in with what's with what's in the neighborhood. The POCD talked about actually, adding some density around this area to help support things like summer concerts, adding some vitality to the center. We believe we're doing that with this application. The POC stresses streetscape improvements. I mean, we could add a tree to this site and it would be more than really what's existing there, but I think Mr. Varespi has done a good job, great job, really enhancing the streetscape here. We are happy to work with the tree warden on additions to that. The POCD talks about walkable, sustainable housing that promotes grandless growth while maintaining strong neighborhood character. Again, I think we fit in line with that. And then again, there's this conversation that we have about missing middle housing. This aims to tackle that, gives another housing type for this area. I look at it similar to 204 Old Post Road, which we just did. It's a property that was in the vicinity of a train station, that was in proximity to commercial corridor, that proposed 8 townhomes in that application. And that was unanimously approved by this commission. So this is, I think, very similar, just towards downtown. So with that, we feel we're in line with your POCD, and we're conforming to your regulations, and respectfully request your approval of this application.
Thank you, Attorney Russo. That'll conclude the initial presentation. We'll go to public comment. Again, if there's anyone joining remotely who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand or sign in chat. Is there anyone in the room first who wishes to be heard on this item? Does not look like it. Mr. Mullen, anyone? And you wish to be heard, you have to indicate such in chat or raise your hand. Okay, hearing no one, will close the public comment on this application. Anything further on your end?
That's it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the public hearing on this item. And that being the last item, we'll adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone.